many in your entourage?
You eat meat?
I eat meat.
What's your footprint?
But I'm not the one here. I'm not the one standing here pretending that I stand for all these things.
I'm doing good, brother. How are you?
But you do, mate. You do. There you go. The biggest hypocrite on YouTube.
People who wave swastikas vote for Trump, and I will vote for everything against somebody who waves a swastika.
Okay, well, that's kind of like really simplistic, but
It is simplistic,
A
but
couple
that's
of
all
weeks
I need
ago-
because they're f***ing Nazis.
But on the other.
Nazi?
No, but you are. But if you.
Oh, but I am.
No. That's not what I mean.
I just can't make sense of it where in a Western democracy, the media is not only not safe, they seem to have been targeted in that situation.
Yeah, I can't speak for exactly what the police were doing there and what was happening, but definitely you can see my face and you can see what happened.
Good on him. Why don't you wear another? Why don't you put another mask on? You're putting us all at risk.
Why don't you off?
Yeah, you're the one that walked to me.
Why don't you off?
How does it feel knowing that your group attacked the only here?
So you
Where are you from? Where are you from?
off.
Where are you from? Why are you? Wear another mask.
Fuck off.
You look like the Nazis the way you're dressed. You look exactly like the Nazis. Don't touch.
There's two groups gathered here. You've got the Free Palestinian side, the pro-Palestinian side. On the other side, you've got a small group of Israelis there. They're from the community. This is most likely their neighborhood.
They claim it's not about anti-Semitism, but they keep throwing coins, throwing notes, showing us notes. This is 100% about Jews, not about each other. And we've imported this hate, and their useful idiots on the left are enjoying and participating in their Jew hatred.
You should shape your beard
Why?
because it's like a bit messy down here. Yeah.
You don't know about different cultures, or do you just think you do?
I don't know about different cultures.
You always go around telling people of color what to do, how to dress. No, I don't. I'm asking you. Do you always go around telling people of color how to dress and how to look?
I want to hear about Daniel's breakfast.
Yeah.
That deflection. So the white anti-fascist being called out for his actual racism,
Did you eat
and
the
he's
yogurt?
deflecting by talking about nothing.
Did you?
Listen, stick to what you
find
do,
out what
Bear.
Daniel had for
Your
breakfast?
racism.
Take your mask off, bro, and talk to me. Don't be a coward, bro. Don't be a coward, man. What's with the umbrella, man? I'm just trying to cover what's happening here.
Why wouldn't I be here? Why? Because you guys are so peaceful. Because you're so peaceful. You're all so peaceful. I wouldn't be here, the Jews wouldn't be here if the police weren't here to protect them. Making the point that they are a violent mob.
I'll stop now because you're asking me quite aggressive questions.
Well, I think
and
the
I
whole
didn't ask to be interviewed. This is an interview done against my approval. And if it's
vaccination
used-
is also
no, if
the
it's
vaccine.
used, If this interview
People
is
are forced vaccinated. Do you think that's okay? That's against their will, and that's WHO pushed the vaccine.
No, I have never called for forced vaccination myself.
Why is that not the WHO official position?
I am not giving the WHO official position. Gosh, you're an aggressive interviewer.
What are you talking about? You're a wedding photographer. Please, do not talk to me.
We just had a guy tell us all about the working class, and you're telling me that wedding photographers can't do this kind of work.
Wedding photographers below your white privilege.
Yeah, actually, no, you're right. I got an answer. No, I just think I'm better than you two fucking idiots.
You said, yeah, that's fine.
Nothing to do with class or race or any of those things.
You brought up my job. You brought up my job.
Anti-fascist, and then he went straight to making fun of him like the person of colour is below him, the holy white man. Shame on you, you racist bigot. How do you put up with him if he's still voting for Dan Andrews?
Well,
We have a fight over
if he
Did you have a fight over it?
Oh, no.
if he gives me my pocket money and doesn't
I'm
complain,
a traditionalist, traditional man, yeah.
yes, he is, and I love him.
God bless you
He's a good
both.
cook, and I'm the provider.
He provides the money. I cook up the 5-star.
You are the sweetest couple. I'll even forgive you that you voted Daniel Andrews in.
Don't worry, I'm taking him back to the nursing home.
What are you scared of medicine for, you coward?
I'm not a coward, man.
Yeah, buddy. Woo!
and like talking about something that directly affects you, and they have no skin in the game. None, nada, zero.
How do you feel about Israel and Palestine?
I mean, I don't think the genocide in Gaza is good.
Do you have skin in the game?
That's like a little bit of a different issue, though. Like, we're talking about like the health.
No, but I'm just trying to make the point here. You have a really strong opinion about Israel. I'm applying your same argument back at you. You don't know what you're talking about. You've got no skin in the game. And
I'm okay.
Okay. Funny how her logic only applies to her political foes. Imagine my shock. You're not happy about the crowd?
Hey?
You're not happy about them?
Isn't it a Nazi protest?
Where's there a Nazi?
Huh?
Where do you see a Nazi?
Well, that's just what I heard. Either way, alt-right.
Who's alt-right, though?
These guys.
What makes them alt-right? Because they don't like Daniel Andrews.
Sure, I don't know. I'm not.
So what is it? You're the one sticking your finger up at him.
You're the one like harassing me over this.
You just stood here and stuck your finger up at a crowd, took a photo. So I think it's fair game. If you're willing to put all these people on your social media with a finger, calling them alt-right Nazis, I think it's pretty fair for me to come and ask you why.
That is true, yes, fair enough.
So why?
Because I just don't agree with them.
What don't you agree with?
Any of their stances.
Give me one of them. One of their stances.
All right, tell me what their position is.
But you're the one that's standing against them. Surely you know.
Okay, cool. I gotta go.
So you don't know?
He's asked you before to step back.
No, he's asked me to get away because he doesn't want me here. That's very different, and you're breaking my meter in half. Same thing.
Yeah, is the reason you don't have a mask on for them?
Yep. We've been through this with your legal department about 5 minutes ago. You might want to ask your superiors about it.
I'll ask you. Why?
You don't have to wear it when you're working like this.
Is that right?
Yeah, go. Call the media. Call the department again.
And your name?
Avraham Yemini.
Do you have your media pass?
Not on me, no. You don't. Mate, you want to call your superiors, you're going to go through this again.
I just need to know who you are.
Avraham Yemini, Rebel News, on my thing. Your intimidation tactics are not going to work.
I'm not trying to intimidate.
All right, yeah, you are, because you know exactly who I am, mate.
So you're working for media, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
You're spraying the media department, no issues. You don't have to wear your face mask while you're doing
Yep.
this, but just make sure that if you're just talking to the guys, that you do put your face mask on for
Yep.
it, okay?
I'm going in and out of it, but I don't appreciate where they tell you that they don't want me in the park, so I've got to go, because if we go by that logic, most of the people in this park don't want you in the park.
Okay, listen to this.
So do you see how, if you want to apply that logic, it's got to be even?
Are you going to let me speak?
What?
Like I said, we've accepted that you're media. Okay,
Oh, thank you. You've accepted. No, but I don't need you to, because I don't need you, because I've come here from the minute I've walked here, and you guys have been confrontational.
Let's go.
There you go. They want you to work with them when it suits them, but they can come up and confront you at any time. That is the definition of a police state. And everybody at home that's apathetic, you let this happen. Why have you been told you have to move on? Can I understand that? Because that's a bit more.
She has to move on now. She's already been given an infringement. Okay?
I've got the infringement. We're taking care of that for her, but we want to understand why she's been. Can I understand? Because the lawyer would like to know. We're taking this fight on for her and would like to know why she's been given. She lives in the area, so she's legally allowed here.
We're not going to discuss that with you. She's been given her direction. She knows
What direction has she been given? What direction? She doesn't know. She doesn't understand. So you're abusing your power. You're kicking a woman out from her own neighbourhood park because you think you have some sort of authority that you don't hold. You can't do that to locals.
Everyone was being sprayed and it's just chaos here. And I think it's completely unnecessary chaos because the people have already gathered here. They're already protesting. This is just a show of force, a show of control.
We've done more for climate change than you have.
Yeah? What have you done?
We've done.
How did you get here?
We've done more for climate change than you have.
How did you get here?
Okay, see you later.
Naz, how did you get here? How did you get here? How many in your entourage?
You eat meat?
I eat meat.
What's your footprint?
But I'm not the one here. I'm not the one standing here pretending that I stand for all these things.
I'm doing good, brother. How are you?
But you do, mate. You do. There you go. The biggest hypocrite on YouTube.
People who wave swastikas vote for Trump, and I will vote for everything against somebody who waves a swastika.
Okay, well, that's kind of like really simplistic, but
It is simplistic.
A couple
but that's
of
all
weeks
I need
ago-
because they're fucking Nazis.
But on the other.
No, but you are. But if you.
Oh, but I am.
No. That's not what I mean.
I just can't make sense of it. Where in a Western Welcome back to the Opposition Podcast. We really need a new intro, Benji. And we've got
I know he's got new footage to work with as well, Benji. There's a lot of new footage that you can put in there with me and Avi working together. Should be good.
He needs to, and you know what? I think between each scene, just have you at the wall.
Apparently, I just heard today that I'm getting $7,000 per post. So I'm gonna start doing more. I'm gonna start doing more posts. Just imagining my $7,000 coming into my bank account.
I heard about this, and everyone. The weird thing is, like, each person that was posting that update that they're paying, that apparently Israel's paying $7,000 per post. They all seem like accounts that were more likely to be being paid themselves by Qatar. It's like every accusation is a confession. I've been saying that for a while. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. Just another lazy Thursday.
Why is it a lazy Thursday?
No, I don't know. I still feel a bit lethargic. Almost not at my full.
Imagine you didn't have all that extra leg room. You'd be so much worse.
Imagine how I would have turned out. So I even skipped doing my own show this week because I was like, I'm just not in the frame of mind of the news cycle yet. But I think by next week, I'll be fully absorbed back into Australian news as it's happening. So
I feel like I've been torn because I'm just trying to pump out. So we got, me, Benji, both producing the stuff that needs to get out. There's a few more videos. There's one that I'm really excited about. I sent it to you, the draft. You can take a look at it. I thought it came out pretty good. The Christian, the priest that we spoke to, who, interestingly enough, wasn't like a massive promoter of Israel or anything like that. He definitely wasn't. But it was a blunt, direct conversation, which was good. Mm-hmm. Which was what we were looking for, like real people telling us how they really feel. Anyways, that's coming next week. Some house rules, or just a general reminder to everyone. Firstly, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us tonight. Make sure when you're here, whatever platform you're on, so I got something in my teeth. Smash that like button. Help the algorithm to help us grow the this community, and share it. If you think other people, it's like I said, grow the community. It's up to you guys at home to help us do that. And if you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because we have all different lives. Like next week, I have a live on Tuesday during the day on October 7 at one of the protests. But there's a bunch of these events coming up, so make sure to hit the subscribe and the notification bell. Make sure you're getting all the notifications when we go live. Below us, as you can see, below myself, that's my YouTube chat, and below Rukshan is his YouTube channel chat. So get involved in the chat. Those are just automatic, so you type stuff in there and they will scroll on. If you want to support our show and have your message read out, or a question, or redirect a conversation, whatever, you can do that via the super chats on both YouTube channels. We will read every super chat, and we will engage in them if it is going in another direction. Sometimes you guys send us down rabbit holes. But with that all out of the way, we have an exciting guest joining us a bit later on in the show, Rachel, who does some fantastic work, but we'll talk about that when we get there. There's just a few stories tonight that I wanted to touch on, which is what we'd prepared. I think let's start with the international story. Our friend, our inspiration.
Yes.
The most selfless activist who skipped her entire schooling just for the planet. And then when she fixed the planet, she thought she'll sort out the Middle East. She went on to she went on a boat to Israel. To Gaza. What was it? A couple of months ago. She warned us. She told us she was kidnapped at the end. Although the photos, the evidence was all smiling faces and a sandwich. And she's done it all again. This time they had a bigger, a larger...
Which is the funniest part again to Harvey, because she was kidnapped the first time around.
Yeah.
And then obviously she was sent back. Now she's coming back to get kidnapped again. So
yeah, like I guess like if you ask any of the released hostages from Gaza if they would be willing to go back to be re-kidnapped, would they be willing to do it no matter how much they believe in the cause? I doubt it. But she probably wanted to go back for another sandwich, which, unfortunately for her, today was Yom Kippur, and it's a fast day, so I don't think she was getting a sandwich. But let's watch the first report on it. I pulled something up. We'll see what it's doing.
Outspoken in her criticism of Israel, but that didn't stop the Israeli Navy.
I don't like their little music. This is Sky. What are they doing fancy? Let's just see if I can...
Israeli Navy, you are approaching a blockaded zone. If you wish to deliver aid to Gaza, you may do so through the established channels. Please change your course toward the port of Ashdod, where the aid will undergo a security inspection and then be transferred into the Gaza Strip.
Now, within the last...
I've got to say, I do enjoy how the IDF just filmed that with like some blonde girl. Like it's because it's kind of their response to "We Get It." You know, last time they were calling it the selfie yacht, and this time they're calling it the Hamas Sumud flotilla. Because they found all the documents linking it.
Right?
To Hamas. I'm gonna find a different. I don't like this Sky News little.
Yeah, I know they're putting music and stuff. I guess the story itself is not that fascinating. They got to amp it up a little bit, and this whole story has felt like that over the last couple of days. People just kind of adding extra layers to it when really it was just this lame attempt by this group of activists to just get attention again. It's the same thing over again.
I see your you've taken a different twist in it all. The terror activists on the Hamas flotilla should ideally be taken as prisoners of war and locked up for a few years. It would be a great service to all the nations from which they hail. Unfortunately, I think they'll be returned home. What has turned you into a sudden radical? Rukshan?
No, but this is what they like. This is what they fantasize. I think people don't understand what I'm trying to say. This is what these activists fantasize about what's going to happen to them when the IDF come and take them. They're going to be kidnapped, put into prisons. This is their fantasy that they were trying to sell to the rest of the world. But the reality is very different, Avi. They would be doing the rest of the world a favor if they kept them there as prisoners, I believe, because these activists cause all sorts of damage within our societies. And of course, I'm talking in jest, right? And we know the truth of all of this is that the IDF will take them in, put them on planes, most likely, and deport them back to their European countries or wherever they're coming from, Australia, New Zealand, everywhere. They'll all be sent back. They have the luxury to be able to do this annoying protest, even though they pretend like they're under the threat of being taken as prisoners of war. Like, that's how they talk about this. But if you've seen the footage from the boat, like, they're singing and they're laughing when the IDF are coming on. They're smiling and they're like, jovial amongst themselves. Like, it's all just theatrics. It's all just a waste of time, a massive show, performative. And the worst part of it is, like, online, the echo chambers around this. Like, when we had the Greek Navy or the sort of Italian Navy and the Spanish Navy get involved, right, with their ships, and everyone was like, oh, they're going to go in, they're going to help the flotilla break the blockade and enter Israeli waters. I'm like thinking, how ridiculous are these people to actually believe that in this particular conflict that the Spanish Navy or the Italian Navy would actually help civilian flotillas enter into a war zone? All of this has been misreported. It's just all over the top, and this is not the reality. The reality is that Israel is sending them back because they're a nuisance and an annoyance, and they'll most likely, if this continues on and Hamas doesn't accept this peace proposal that we've been discussing last show, these guys will probably get more boats together and go in again. Like, it's just super annoying. And they're saying they're going to give baby formula and do all these things, but what do we see across the border, Avi, when we were in Israel? They don't need this petty baby formula from these boats. There's stacks and stacks of first aid and supplies there on the Gaza side of the border, waiting for it to be distributed. So
that's
all
true.
Of this is theatrics. All of this is a show, and I just think it's complete nonsense. So if you're actually a discerning individual and you're looking at this and you're thinking that somehow that these individuals are the one that are gonna save everything and stop the war from happening, you're just living in a la-la land, just like these far left activists. And sadly, even people on the right are defending them. People like Greta, who for years have been causing all sorts of nonsense and damage with their climate nonsense, have now jumped on this bandwagon. And you have conservatives that used to call them out that are like, oh, well, in this instance,
we like Greta.
Because
because they hate Israel more than they love any, more than they stand for any of their principled positions. Like that's. Well, here we could play actually that video that we did at the because I forgot about that. That's a good point. Let's just quickly watch that.
What we want to do is give the food to the people who need it. We have done many things to provide safe routes and to provide access to the international organizations. We have it open almost the whole day. They can come and pick it up. We just want to give the
that's
food
all
to
the
people
hate
who need it.
that you
yeah,
feel.
there's
people to
and
have
the
food.
That was a
workers there,
fraction. That was a fraction of it actually, because that was just
and
like
the workers on those trucks and those forklifts that are doing all that stuff are actually Gazans.
Yeah, we show them.
Everyone knows that this whole starvation thing, this whole lack of aid thing, is just a massive, psyop in the West and a scam to like get people emotionally charged about it. The reality on the ground are even the Gazans they're working in these aid camps or whatever to try to get this aid back into the into the areas where it's needed. But the problem is obviously because Hamas either steals the aid and tries to control it, or the UN, those who want to facilitate the distribution of this aid, are not stepping up to it. This is an active war zone. Like no war, usually, you don't see Russia supplying Ukrainian towns with aids. No. Right? You don't see this normally during a time of war. This is slightly different. I understand there's a slightly different context to this, and Israel has stepped up to try to allow this aid to pass through because obviously Gaza has been occupied by a terrorist force in Hamas that is making it hard for the people there. But besides all of that, that aid there goes for kilometers and kilometers. There's tons and tons of baby formula and all sorts of things there. Whatever they're carrying on those ships.
There's nothing. They don't even pretend there's much on there. They call it, like even on ABC. I see ABC running headlines for them. Did an interview with some random Aussie that's on it, acting like it's. I might bring up the interview because it's funny to watch how they're acting like, oh, they're coming. I might have to put my hands up, like so dramatic. But when you actually watch the footage of when the army comes on, it's like it's just they're treating them like clowns that they are. And as a part of that clown show, so even ABC just talks about it as symbolic aid mission because everybody knows that there's not real aid there, and the real aid is sitting here where we went, waiting to be distributed, but is being. Watch it here. We'll watch it here because I don't need to recite it.
We want the food not to reach to Hamas's hands.
Yemini for Rebel News, where we've just crossed the Kerem Shalom border from Israel and now currently inside of Gaza.
We are at the Gazan side of Kerem Shalom crossing, where after the trucks are being checked that there's only humanitarian aid in them, they drop off the aid here, waiting for the international organizations to pick them up.
So as you can see, we're surrounded by humanitarian aid, tons and tons, where they say about 300 to 400 truckloads a day enter. So are the people of Gaza starving? If they are, it's not because the aid isn't coming here, but it's because the UN and other organizations are refusing to deliver it. The empty trucks waiting to enter now to pick up a load, to take it to the people who need it most, only kilometers from here.
Each day from about 300 to 400 trucks are being brought into Gaza, drop off the aid here, waiting for the UN and other international organizations to pick it up. And sometimes they do it faster, sometimes not, but it changes from one to another.
And the workers here employed by the distribution center by Israel are Palestinians from within the Gaza Strip. If there's food not getting to them, why is it not getting to them?
We do our part. We bring the safe routes. We bring the food. We check the trucks. We coordinate with international organizations. All they have to do is just come, pick it up, and give it to the people.
And are they not doing that?
I guess just look around.
And why are they not doing it? Is it, and why are they telling it?
I don't know to speak for them, but I know we do our part. We bring it here.
So that was just, and just to give people some sort of understanding, like one of those little trucks that you saw there, and that was just in the half an hour that we were there. One of those little trucks will be carrying more aid than their entire flotilla. That's what a nonsense, what a joke, and that's exactly the reason why when the ABC runs cover for them here, they're calling it symbolic because they know it's beyond a joke. If they ever did let them, so they basically take them to the port. I'll see if I can find actually the ABC analysis.
But I'd like to reiterate: no other war would there be an expectation on the opposing sides to provide each other with aid. We discussed this like this is a normal thing. It's not a normal thing.
No.
This doesn't happen. And this debate never takes place other times. Either there's aid being airdropped in by other international sources or things like this. This whole process has been facilitated and made available. For whatever reason, the UN hasn't been able to step up. Obviously, there's Hamas terrorists.
Well, the reason is that they've had Hamas terrorists embedded in the UN. The UN.
Yeah, I mean,
you've got to understand the UN in Palestine is very different to. They're flops all around the world, but in the Palestinian territories specifically, they got it's called UNRWA, the United Nations Relief. They're specifically just for the Palestinian territories, and they've been for years hijacked by Hamas, especially in the Gaza Strip. So the UN have been absolutely useless, and the only way Israel could ensure that the aid is actually getting to the people is to take it away from them so they can't sell it. Let's read a couple of these super chats, and then I want to watch the ABC version. Cruel Intentions says, deport Benji now. You're not going to get an argument out of us on that.
Send him in a flotilla to China.
Unusual AI does love hearts Israel. Appreciate your super chat. I think that's in euros. Is that that's euros, isn't it? Euros is good, isn't it, for us?
That looks like pounds.
Or is that no? That's not pounds. That's euros. That's euro.
Okay.
That's just.
It's small on my screen.
I just want to see if it's if I'm right. Yeah, it is really good. Jeez, that's a generous. I'm pretty sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a generous super chat. Thank you, Unusual AI. I appreciate your support and your message. And we have Eric who says, "G'day lads, hope you two recovered from the jet lag." Well, it sounds like from what Rukshan told us is that he's very grateful for the extra leg room, but yeah, he's not fully recovered yet, but he's getting there. Let's watch this. I'm not sure if this was the one that I saw, because I have, like I said, I have ABC playing on the side of my head all day while I'm working, so I can kind of keep up with what the enemy's telling us with the latest propaganda talking points. And it was just wild to hear. It was more their hourly news bulletin just running cover for these people. But and they interviewed someone. I hope the interview's on this because it's kind of funny.
So how has Israel been able to intercept the flotilla, even though it's in international waters, isn't it?
That is the point. This does happen in international waters. It's not an area that Israel has any jurisdiction over. It is 70 to 80 nautical miles off the coast of Gaza. Israel's jurisdiction would only extend somewhere between 12 and 24 nautical miles. But that doesn't worry the Israeli government. It doesn't worry the Israeli military or navy. This is not the first time they have carried out this sort of interception, and they are able to do it with relative impunity. I mean, we hear from activists, European parliamentarians talking out against it, but Israel is still able to do it. It has always been very adamant that it won't allow anybody to break the siege on Gaza. And over the years, there have been various attempts to do so. A significant one was 2010. 9 Turkish activists were killed in that one. But this is a massive one. As you said, 40, 50 ships, 500 activists on board. Israel has turned those ships back. Others are being dragged into...
So I think, like, firstly, the framing. This wasn't the one that I was referring to, but the framing in which the ABC lays this out, like these innocent activists on 40 ships and the evil big Israel with impunity going out of their jurisdiction. It's like, dude, what do you want to do? You want to wait till they enter the jurisdiction, and that's where it's an active war zone, and then a bunch of them get killed in some sort of crossfire, and then what? You're going to complain that they got killed, like the Turkish ones at other time. Like,
exactly.
What do you want? So, but to me, the most frustrating thing is that the ABC just runs cover for these extremists who are doing nothing to help any. Like right now, literally as they're doing this, we're waiting for Gaza, for Hamas to agree to the ceasefire that you guys have been calling. In fact, no, an end to the war, an end to the killing that you guys have been demanding for 2 years now.
I do suspect, Avi, that the reason that they do act with impunity in international waters, I have my suspicions that these European countries actually want Israel to stop the flotilla.
100%.
Because the last thing they want is their dumb citizen activists to end up in a war zone, because that creates another headache for all these other countries to get them out of there if something does happen to them. At the end of the day, they're responsible for these civilians. Most of them, they're all pretty much civilians. So none of these countries, that's why I believe Italy sent a boat, Spain sent a boat in case one of these things did sink or whatever, or something happened, that they could rescue their citizens, because they're idiots. Right, so the last thing that these European countries want is for these boats to actually end up in the war zone. So they are more than happy to not say anything about it, to act like they're angry with Israel, but let Israel again do the dirty work of sending these people back. Because, like I said, last thing that any of these countries want is these people to end up on Gaza in the hands of Hamas for whatever thing that could go either direction. Like their friends today, something else could happen in the future where they're used as hostages, for instance, as a bargaining chip with Europe. So no one wants that. So I think that's why they get to act with impunity, because they're doing everyone a favor by turning these ships back and stopping that from becoming even a bigger mess than it already is.
Yeah, look, and I don't know. I highly doubt they're breaching international law, because if they were, they would 100 people would be taking them to international court over that specific breach. It's just nonsense.
Not even that, yeah. And no other country wants to encourage this type of behavior during wartime. Like, what are you going to have flotillas sailing into the Crimea? What are you going to? This is kind of the normal thing that we're going to have now in the future. Activists just getting on boats and sailing into war zones because of their preconceived notions that they form on sitting in armchairs at home. You know what I mean? Like, this is not a normalized thing that anyone around the world wants to see. It's dangerous, for one, and it also puts military's lives at risk, and including the lives of these activists, who a lot of them are idealistic and don't really know what they're getting into most of the time.
I just love the framing. Get to act with impunity. It's like, dude, they're literally doing the job that they told you that they're going to do. Like, what impunity? They're enforcing a blockade that is in place for a reason. And if you want all that to be lifted, if you really care about the Gazans and the aid or whatever, you would be right now urging Hamas to sign that deal. Why are all these activists not screaming from the rooftops for Hamas to hurry up and sign it? Like, what's taking so long for Hamas to sign to a deal that ends the war?
Yeah, not just the war. Like, they claim it's a genocide. If you're on the receiving end of a genocide, that means you are getting your ass handed to you and are on the losing side. So if there is an option for peace, let's say that all this was real, there's an option for peace that is backed by your allies in Turkey and all other parts of the Arab states, why wouldn't you take that? Of course, you'd be jumping up and down to sign that. But this is not what this is about. And even for these extremist activists, It's not about that. For them, there's their obsession with Israel, I believe. They want to see the continuation of war in the sense where Israel has to give up everything and lose everything. That's what they're going for. And that's why you don't see them talking about the peace deal, and they just want to
100%. For them, it's the eradication of Israel. It's just like leftists here that call for, the end of the Australian project. Yeah, so it's like the same idea. So like even here, they'll never. You change. A comparison would be like Change Australia Day, thinking that the date change is actually going to stop the animosity and the protests and every single year going through the same routine. It won't, because that's not really what they're talking about. And so in this case, the analogy is when it comes to them screaming on the streets of Melbourne, taking us hostage for 2 years, screeching about ceasefire now, it was never about a ceasefire, because the moment that they have now the real public opportunity to end it all, in fact, give Gaza the best chance it will ever get to actually rebuild and create something and create potentially a state, they're not jumping on it. And they're not jumping on it because they don't care about that, because it's not about that. They just want the destruction of Israel. Their problem with the current offer means that Israel still gets to exist.
Exactly.
Dean says, can't Greta just work from home? Laugh out loud. You know what? That's funny. Like, I saw a bunch of videos that people were publishing online from the flotillas over the last couple of days, and they're polluting. They're throwing stuff overboard. Like, the carbon footprint of this operation that was bound to be doomed from the beginning. She knew what was going to happen. Everyone knew what was going to happen. The fantasy that they had all of a sudden when the Spanish and the Italian came on, it was like pure fantasy. Everybody on the ships knew exactly what was going to happen. And they knew also it was going to happen peacefully. They knew that the military was going to do it. The Israeli army, with impunity, was going to go far enough ahead to ensure that there is no actual danger and they can do it calmly. They all knew this, but the carbon footprint for the world is going to end. Like, I get that you care so much about the fat starving Gazans, but you told us like a couple of years ago you were basically you refused to go to school because the world was about to end, because people are, driving their car too much on the street. Now you're telling me you can take, how many did I say, 50 ships, 50 boats on this mission where you're polluting, they were throwing things overboard.
Yeah. I have the video on my X. If you go to my X, you'll see it.
I'll pull it up just to show people
that haven't seen of the activist Greta's mates polluting the oceans. And I think the boats are being sunk after they've been cleared, which is good for the coral, I believe. If they go sunk to the bottom of the ocean, in the Mediterranean Sea there, the coral can, grow on the boats, and it's a good habitat for fish over time. So there's that benefit to everything that's happening, I guess, in a way. But yes, it is somewhat hypocritical for these peaceniks and
here we go. Yeah, you did post it.
I did post it, yeah.
ثانية سنلغيها في البحر في حالة احترازنا من طرف جنود الاحتلال الصهيوني. نتمنى إن شاء الله ستصل. هذه المساعدات متمثلة في حليب الأطفال وأدوية ومواد غذائية أساسية.
That's the aid, and they're saying they're throwing it in there so it goes to Gaza. It's like it's all a show. None of this is real. The medicine you have in there is like fits in your pockets, but it's not even. It's just polluting. It's in plastic bottles. It's a complete and utter joke. Let's continue watching ABC's analysis of this.
Ashdod port. Those activists who are taken in, many of them will have to sign a declaration waiving their legal right against deportation, and Israel will send them out of the country.
We're seeing live pictures from one of these boats now, clearly still sailing, and daylight has just.
We got
the sun has
some
just risen
breaking news as
there
well,
at the
Arby.
moment.
Just
What's happening?
Nicole, these activists say that.
Several people stabbed at a Manchester synagogue, just breaking in the UK.
Oh,
so I just
Jesus.
saw it in the comments, some people putting it in the comments.
Let's pull it up.
You can pull it up on the Telegraph, and there's a little bit there.
And it'll be on Yom Kippur. Today's Yom Kippur, yeah. Here we go. We've got a few of them. This is from The Sun. Knife horror. Armed cops and paramedics rush stabbing at synagogue in Manchester. Cordon is in place in North Manchester. Police have rushed to a synagogue where someone has been stabbed. Cops on the scene alleged stabbing at a synagogue on the day of Yom Kippur. So today, for people who don't know, it is the holiest
Telegraph
day.
is reporting that multiple people have been stabbed.
Well, let's pull up the
Telegraph.
Telegraph.
Circumstances, but
let's pull up the Telegraph. The Sun is probably not the
suspect
best.
has been shot.
Here we go. Let's go BBC.
Does look like a terror attack.
Yeah, major incident declared after reports of stabbings at Manchester synagogue. Incident at synagogue comes on Yom Kippur. The incident at Manchester comes on the holiest day in the Jewish religious calendar. Large number of Jewish people attend synagogues. Ambulance service declares major incident. The Northwest Ambulance Service has just put out a statement confirming a major incident has been declared in Crumsall, Manchester. They say following reports of an incident on Middleton Road in Crumsall, the trust and dispatch resources to the scene. We are currently assessing the situation, working with other members of the emergency service. Our priority is to ensure people receive medical help they need as quickly as possible. Okay, so this is why don't we work backwards? So police dealing with an incident in Manchester. So this is 17 minutes ago. Police dealing with Manchester. The breaking story and lots is unclear, but we'll have more for you in a few minutes. So then, a few minutes later, multiple people stabbed. Police a bit more now. Police who say that multiple people have been stabbed will bring more details. Then it says immediate danger seems to be over. Some more now from Manchester Mayor who advises listeners to avoid the area at the same time and give assurance that the immediate danger appears to be over. He says the incident was dealt with effectively by those on site and by Greater Manchester Police. So that may be because these days you need armed security at synagogues, at least in Australia you have, and I imagine in Manchester they probably have as well. So it sounds like
there's footage online already of the cops shooting the suspect. It's graphic. We probably can't show it, but he's lying on the floor in a pool of blood, just shot by police.
So he was shot by
outside the synagogue. Yeah, it looks like a man. He had a bag and.
Where are you seeing?
I mean, I'll send you the link. It's not too graphic. We could maybe bring it up. Because there's no actual violence. It's after the fact.
You sending him to me on Twitter?
Yep.
Have you sent it?
I'm trying to find you. Here we go.
You're trying to find me. Just look up my name.
Yep.
Let me just see. Oh no, I think it's all right. Yeah, I think that's.
I think
fine.
it's okay.
Yeah. All right, let's bring it up. So these are scenes right now. from...
Fucking hell, they just...
Everybody else, get back! If you're not involved, move back! Get away! Somebody stay on the table! Everybody else, he has the ball! Go away!
He's got a bomb on him! He's got a bomb! Mate, he's got a... Man, he's got a bomb on his fucking jacket, mate!
They're saying he's got a bomb on him, like he's like strapped with something, I don't know.
No, he's got a bomb! Get the fuck out of here! Mate, if he detonates that... Mate, I'm just jumping out of this in a minute. He's going to blow himself up.
Is that someone else on the floor?
That might be one of the victims.
Yeah,
Man,
it looks like
fucking
it.
shoot him!
So he didn't breach...
Oh, they shot him.
He didn't breach the building. He didn't breach the building. He was on the outer when the cops got him. But he had killed some people on the outskirts of the building.
I think it does get pretty graphic. Yeah, it looks like there's somebody dead on the floor. It looks like there's somebody...
But that guy was very clearly saying he's strapped with something as well. So
yeah, there's a... Yeah, it
could have been a terrorist attack stopped.
Mate, England is pretty screwed. I'm just going to be honest about that. This is what happens. This is mass migration. I'm assuming here who it's going to be. I find it hard to believe that I'm wrong, but they have a major extremist problem in the UK because of their open border policy. And you know, they always say first they come for the Saturday people, so today that's what they're targeting. It's Jews at a synagogue. But we've seen in Manchester, we've seen the attacks on the Sunday people as well. So I'm just saying if there's anything on BBC Live now. No. We'll keep our eye on that.
Yeah.
Crazy what's going on. The world has gone insane. Just keep your eye on.
But it does coincide with Yom Kippur, so this is kind of a heightened time for possible attacks because it seems to be a symbolic time to, lay out attacks against Israel during this particular, particular holiday or observance of this religious holiday.
BBC saying 4 people injured. It just seems like that person lying on the ground. I don't understand why no one's with the person, so I'm assuming that they're just unresponsive. So there's no point at that point. But it all seemed a bit crazy. All right, let's just read these super chats. Can't get Greta to work from home. That we already read that one. Thank you, Dan, for your super chat. Catherine says, are Greta and mates going to check on the hostages? Mate, they could not give a shit.
I mean, if the flotilla had that as well, a part of their mission to, ensure the release of the hostages, maybe put them on the boats and take them out, that would be maybe admirable if they had both those goals, but it's not about that, is it?
No,
it's never been about that for that particular group of activists.
No, it hasn't. It's a virtue signal of greatest proportions and a dangerous one. And everything they do proves that they don't care about any of those issues. But we've talked about I'm just got my eye on these updates. All right, police have given more details on the attack. So send a flotilla to Melbourne to stop the violence, Equity says. Yeah, that's a good idea. Just an update. Police give more details on the attack. We've just had the following statement from Greater Manchester Police. Police were called to Heaton Park Hebrew Congregation Synagogue on Middleton Road in Crumpsall at 9:31 a.m. by a member of the public stating he had witnessed a car being driven towards members of the public. One man had been stabbed. GMP declared plateau and a major incident. 9:37 shots were fired by Greater Manchester Police firearms officers at 9:38 a.m. One man has been shot, believed to be the offender. Paramedics arrived on the scene at 9:41, attending to members of the public. Currently, 4 members of the public with injuries caused by both the vehicle and stab wounds. Members of the public are asked to avoid the area while police continue with the incident. Okay. Seems like there's scarce details there. The video seemed to tell a much more horrific story than that, but we'll wait to see as those details come through. Mandy says, Avi, have you heard Tommy is going before a judge and not a jury for terrorism charges? Yes, I have heard that, and it's outrageous, and they always do that to Tommy. They never want to put him in front of a jury of his peers because they know it's going to be sympathetic. The average Brit, we saw what happened when we saw the average Brit.
I don't know if you saw the story. The Metropolitan Police or whatever in the UK were also suspending members of the police who were supporting Tommy Robinson. I saw something like that a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I think I saw that. So even within the police ranks, there's people that support him because they're everyday people, and they're weeding them out as well. So the state is definitely worried. If you've been watching the UK Labour conference, you've got Keir Starmer, even Albanese joined in, and they're all talking about obviously the rising sentiments of this patriotism, which they're trying to label as far right extremism. And it's not that, is it? That's not what we saw when we were there, Avi. It was just ordinary Brits who had fed up with the way the country's going. And there is that push towards at least Nigel Farage and reform in terms of the number of people who looks like the number of seats they might be able to capture. So, all of this is playing out. And I think Tommy just happens to be in the space where, they can lay some of that on him, if that makes sense. If they can deter him maybe, or put him through some sort of turmoil, it might deter others. I feel like a lot of that's at play at the same time.
All right, going back, before we move on to the next story, we'll go back to the flotilla. There was one interesting video that really captured my heart today, and it was just the declaration by this group from the flotilla.
Have been intercepted. And so here on the Bahad, we just want to say that when we get intercepted and we are held illegally in Israel and national courts, we three are going to engage in a hunger strike.
They're going to engage in a hunger strike on the Jewish fast day of Yom Kippur. So I feel like do you think that was like an announcement of support and solidarity with Jews?
People. It feels like that. But how funny in all of that, and even in some of the other videos, are we like, you got the IDF boarding or whatever, and they just have their phones on them, they film them themselves. Like, no one really cares. Like, they're releasing the videos, they're putting them out. It's all a show. The IDF don't even care that they got their phones on them. Some of them are throwing their phones off the ship, like this dramatic thing. It's just like, what is going on? Like, this is not what a kidnapping looks like. You didn't have any of the hostages film themselves like in a jovial mood about what they're going to do when they get taken over into Gaza by Hamas on October 7th, like we're going to do a hunger strike. It was none of that that was real, what happened there. This is all performative theater, and it's to a Western audience. And like you said, it's Yom Kippur, and everyone in Israel is going to welcome them joining in.
Oh, we can tune over to this for a second.
Factual information as the hot seat develops, if that's okay. But I can obviously
volume's
give
a bit low.
People that immediate reassurance not to worry too much. The situation has been dealt with very effectively by those on site and by Greater Manchester Police.
Well, Andy Burnham, the Greater Manchester Mayor, is still giving more detail. Let's listen in to what he's saying, the very latest on this attack in Manchester.
With injuries caused by both the vehicle and stab wounds. Members of the public are asked to avoid the area while the police continue to deal with the incident.
And as I say, this incident has come on Yom Kippur, which is the holiest day in the Jewish religious calendar. And just to confirm, the Greater Manchester Police have said the suspect in the Crumpsall synagogue attack has been shot, but at the moment not able to say what their condition is. And has been at the hot seat with me in the studio as the Mayor of Greater Manchester. We will bring you all the information we can on this ongoing, both from Andy Burnham and of course from our journalists like Paul Lockett. We do, by the way, have a reporter on the way to the scene.
Damn, they really pump up their volume for that.
So far, it looks like just a lone wolf. But we have seen prior in attacks in the UK, especially, there's been other other people involved as well sometimes, and it's like a multiple attacks that happen. So this is all just coming out. This is breaking news that we're sharing in terms of what's happening in Manchester with the stabbing at the synagogue. So far, the police are saying that the suspect has been neutralized.
Yeah, and it did look like that in the video, but we'll keep an eye on that throughout our show tonight. Michael says, thanks for Super Chat, Michael. Hi, guys, and much love. Islamists are taking our Jews and Christians daily, and we only watch crazy Islamics like oil and water. So, yeah. I think you're responding there. That's a response to the terror, what looks like a terror attack in Manchester unfolding at the moment. Okay. Let's finish watching this ABC thing because we've got our guest coming in about 9 minutes and we're going to move over to that other story. Hold on, I think I've put... Sorry, I think I've got something else playing here, so I'll cancel that. I think there's two things playing on this computer and it's confusing it. Now it's bugging out. What did I have? It must be that BBC thing. Yeah. There we go, I'll just pause that. Alright, go back to it.
The blockade on Gaza has been in force for 18 years, and this all started 2006. Hamas won parliamentary elections inside Gaza and the West Bank. It was democratically elected. It was allowed to run.
Why is it doing that?
You've got the filter on to cut the music?
No, I don't think I do. It's not. It's just bugging out. Hold on, I'll just close. Give me 2 seconds. I'll close the audio hijack and I'll do it again.
Thanks, guys, for joining in for another episode of the Opposition Podcast. If you're joining in, we've been switching in between, obviously, our usual stories that we do, as well as covering some breaking news coming out of Manchester. So that's why we're having technical issues, because we jumped out.
The international community wouldn't accept the result.
No.
What is it?
You might have... I reckon I just close your YouTube and...
Yeah.
Someone said I'm playing Tetris on my phone. I'm not. I'm just.
Start here in the UK on an issue that's.
I think it's doing it to all of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
What would you say to do?
I would just restart the whole machine, the YouTube, whatever, the computer.
That computer.
Yeah, however you're playing the videos.
Well, that's gonna Mandy says Channel 7 dropped a YouTube short saying Palestine Action are going to celebrate October 7 on Sydney Harbour Steps. Celebrate, yeah.
I don't know if they use the word celebrate, but they are holding a protest. I think they've put permits in to have a protest at the Sydney Opera House the week after the 7th of October. And we all, of course, remember just days after in Sydney when they had a vigil for what happened on October 7th. That particular night, we had the pro-Palestinians come that day and some disturbing scenes there in Sydney. So probably invokes a lot of that for people. And we have seen, major protests, pro-Palestinian protests at major landmarks all across Australia. The Sydney Harbour Bridge famously, and now the Sydney Opera House will be the stage for a protest the week after October 7th. Okay, someone said Channel 7 used the word celebrate.
That's fun. Insane. But I'm not surprised anymore. Give it a minute there. Are you saying any? Yeah, it's weird what it's done. Hopefully this restarting it.
Yeah. There's nothing new on Manchester at the moment.
Cool, I've got it. I've restarted it. Let's see if it...
And over the years, there have been various attempts to do so. A significant one was 2010. 9 Turkish activists were killed in that one. But this is a massive one. As you said, 40, 50 ships, 500 activists on board. Israel has turned those ships back. Others are being dragged into Ashdod port. Those activists who are taken in, many of them will have to sign a declaration waiving their legal right against deportation, and Israel will send them out of the country.
We're seeing live pictures from one of these boats now, clearly still sailing, and daylight has just, or the sun has just risen there at the moment. Nicole, these activists say that they want to break the years-long aid blockade via sea on Gaza. How did it come about in the first place?
It's a really good question, and it's often lost when we're talking about this. The blockade on Gaza has been in force for 18 years, and this all started 2006. Hamas won parliamentary elections inside Gaza and the West Bank. It was democratically elected. It was allowed to run, but the international community wouldn't accept the result.
I don't think that's even true. Did they win the West Bank? I think they just won in Gaza.
I think it was just Gaza, and
I think she's just making shit up. This just shows how much the ABC,
this is the ABC.
The ABC, like, this is their expert journalist reporting on it. I literally want to fact check that right now. Let's fact check that. Oh no, she's actually right. So it was actually across. It's pretty funny. So they say, while Hamas's victory applied to the entire Palestinian Authority, both Gaza and West Bank, the results led to a power struggle with Fatah. This eventually escalated into violent clashes in 2007. After this bill, Hamas took control of Gaza. A Palestinian Authority, led by Fatah, retained control of the West Bank. So they actually did win the election. There you go. I stand to be corrected. Maybe she's more of an expert than me after all.
Said that they couldn't have a, quote, terrorist entity controlling the Palestinian territories. Hamas then fought a civil war with its political rivals, Fatah. It kicked Fatah out of the Gaza Strip. It took control of Gaza. And that is when Israel really put the screws on Gaza. There were already heavy restrictions there, but they tightened the blockade. And I was living in Gaza during that period. It was an extraordinary time. There were hundreds and hundreds of tunnels between Gaza and Egypt to bring in the most basic supplies. I saw cars brought into Gaza, animals, crates of fish, all sorts of food because the restrictions were so tight. So for almost 20 years now, the Gaza Strip has been under blockade, and activists, every now and then they try and break the blockade, and these are stunts. They're not going to succeed, everybody knows it, but it does bring media attention to the issue.
Looking at another element of the conflict now, we're still seeing weekly protests in Israel against the war, but you've been speaking to a doctor who's been treating Israeli soldiers with mental health issues after serving in Gaza. What's he told you?
Yes, I spoke to a doctor, Tully Flint. He's a therapist. He was a lieutenant colonel, reservist in the Israeli military as well. He has refused to serve in Gaza, but he has been treating soldiers when they've come out. And this is something that's getting quite a lot of attention inside Israel at the moment, the spate of suicides that we're seeing among Israeli soldiers. Since the war started, there's been around 60. Now, about a dozen of them have been directly attributed to the war in Gaza, but there's a huge amount of concern.
Anyways, to me, it's a joke that they, like yesterday there was a debate in the press club, which was televised around the country, and it was literally one side was anti-Israel and the other side was even more anti-Israel. Like there was literally, they're debating the same side, and I just thought, what is going on? What world do we live in? And there's not, like, the counterpoint is actually and they weren't acting like they weren't acting like one side was making the arguments for Israel, in support of Israel. They literally had two. The framing was funny, and it's on there. You can see on their YouTube. Let me just check where our guest is at. Otherwise, we'll move on to the other story. Before we move on to hers, we'll move it around. Okay. Couple super chats. What have we got? Smokey Bear gave us a super chat. Thank you, Smokey Bear, for the support. Baz says, defund the ABC. Totally agree. I do not know, have no idea why I would be paying for the ABC at this point in our lives. I reckon we'll skip over to the digital ID, and then we'll come back to the other story when our guest logs on. Oh, yeah. Oh, well, she's actually saying she's logging on now, so let's just hold off.
Perfect.
The digital ID is a bit of a conversation, so we will do that one. Thanks, Baz, again for the super chat as usual. Let me just, you know what? Let's play the story of that. Let me pull it up. The story of what she's coming on to discuss tonight. We'll watch Credlin's piece on it because it was quite good.
We'll pick up again on that story out of Victoria last night of a trans woman, so biological male, currently imprisoned in a women's jail. Outrage today has turned to the leniency of the sentence, 4.5 years, 4 years and 9 months, for sexually abusing their own daughter. But get this, it comes with a 2.5-year non-parole period. Calls now for the Victorian Premier to act.
These are sentences that are not in line with community expectations. That is why we will make sure we will review all of the sentencing here in Victoria.
We will stay with this issue, and I should say up front that this is very shocking. It's very shocking, some of these details. You'll recall last night, leading women's activist Rachel Wong and I discussed the horrific case of a trans woman, a biological man in other words, currently serving time in a Victorian women's prison for molesting his own 5-year-old daughter to please a chat room male friend, and whose appallingly short sentence was shortened further on the grounds that he was a female subject to coercive control. That he was a female, even though the prosecution's material tendered in court about the graphic nature of the father's abuse of his little girl refers to father's penis. Now, please, I know this is hard to discuss, just as it's hard to comprehend, but please bear with me, because unless we all understand what's happening in our courts and in our justice system in this country, signed off by our governments, then it will continue without challenge. And challenge we must this madness. Here are the basics.
I'll just bring in our guest to discuss this story. Rachel, welcome to the show. I might straighten you up there while we have... Oh, there we go. You've done a pretty good job yourself. How are you doing?
Yeah, pretty good, Avi. Thanks for having me on. It's been a pretty big week with the story. The media sort of blown up on it, I guess, which is a very good thing because there's been too much, I guess, silence around these kinds of things for too long. So it's been great to see the media, well, some of the media, come to the party.
So tell us the story. We watched about a minute to 2 minutes while you were calling in of Credlin's report on it. Break it down for us from the beginning, and how did you get involved in what's happening where we're at?
So basically, a couple of weeks ago, the story broke in online publication Redux, which is an overseas online feminist publication, and that's sort of where we picked it up. And basically, the story was about a man who sexually abused his 5-year-old daughter and shared images and videos of that abuse with a pedophile in the US. So this is a Victorian man, and he sent those images overseas. And he, at the time, was identifying as a woman, got caught, got charged and convicted, and then ended up being sent to a women's prison. And during which they allow in Victoria and other states as well, because they allow prisoners to be placed based on gender identity rather than their sex. And yeah, but I mean, look, there's so many disturbing things about this case. When you read the judgment itself, the man it feels like he's been treated as more of a victim than the little girl in the way that they talk about him. And, you know, he had all these struggles with his gender identity and being accepted as a woman. And they sort of compare him interacting with this pedophile overseas, who he kind of saw as his master and his lover and as someone who was more dominant over him. They compare that to what it's like when women are abused and are basically coerced into engaging in these kinds of sexual crimes. So they basically talk about him as if he's an abused woman, which is incredibly disturbing. This man was only given 2.5 years minimum jail term. The maximum he could have got was 25. So that's obviously a very small amount in comparison. The actual sentence itself was 4 years, 9 months. Only half of that has to be in prison.
So pedophilia and then sharing it with another pedophile in America, and he got 2 years.
2.5 years minimum jail term, yeah.
Incest as well. Like, it's all pretty sick when you consider everything. But I don't know if you saw Rachel today. Jacinta Allen commented on this as well. And she tried to handball it off to the prison system. Do you buy her the way that she's kind of handling this right now?
No, I think it's absolutely pathetic. Do you want to play it first, Avi?
I'll find it first. Did somebody post it? Did one of you post
it? It is online, yeah.
There's a short clip, I think, on Oz versus the Agenda, or maybe on Sal Grover's Twitter page as well.
Yeah, I'll pull
But she's been hiding from this issue for the past 2 weeks because we started campaigning on this as soon as the story came out in Redux, and we've been sending her letters. Other people have been sending her letters. Obviously, there's been media stories all week long. She first got one of her other ministers to address it earlier in the week, but today she was finally confronted about it at the press conference. And, you know, good on the journalist, because, you know, 5 or 6 questions were asked of her, and she basically kept repeating the same line over and over again. This isn't for me or my ministers, for Corrections Victoria. There are already safety policies in place, et cetera, and basically just shift accountability, when the reality is we know that the government is the one that's responsible for the policies in the first place and for the people who are overseeing them. And so I just think it's disgraceful the way that she's palmed it off, but we're not going to let that be the end of it. So
let's have a listen.
I think it would be deeply inappropriate for any Member of Parliament, Minister or Premier of the day to be reaching in to Corrections Victoria and directing the placement of any prisoner across the prison system. So let's be clear. There are strict and clear guidelines within which Corrections Victoria operate, and that includes the safety and well-being of all prisoners when it comes to the placement of individual prisoners, and that is the operational decisions that Corrections Victoria make every single day. And it's not just to guide the safety and well-being of prisoners, it's also to support the safety and well-being of staff. And I respect and support the work of Corrections Victoria to consider the placement of prisoners as appropriate across the prison system. I think it would be...
That is
insane. Because it's almost like she's saying, like, nothing to see here. You know, it's like we had nothing to do with any of this. But she actually mentions it in what she's saying, that the Prisons Victoria is bound by certain policies and, you know, frameworks which are put in place, which directly are contributed to by government policy.
Well, yeah,
I don't know why she can't say that.
Who's responsible for these departments and for the policies? It's the government, you know? If she wanted to do something, she could, but she clearly doesn't. And the reality is, why are we going to trust Corrections Victoria on this? Because firstly, they're not even abiding by their own guidelines. So their guidelines say that they advise that prisons be based on gender identity rather than sex. But their guidelines also, as she says, talk about the safety and well-being of all prisoners being paramount. Now, they clearly haven't taken that into consideration if they are placing male prisoners in women's prisons. But back in 2022, when there was another case similar to this, there was another male sex offender who had actually tried to rape a woman on a Melbourne street, who also had previous convictions for paedophilia as well. He was placed in that prison. We also campaigned the government at that time. We ran a very sustained campaign, and the Corrections Victoria basically came back and just affirmed their policy and said nothing to see here. So why would we trust them?
In the UK, they are walking back a lot of this stuff. I believe is the idea of men being in women's prisons in the UK. Have they walked that specific issue down? Because I remember they recently had a win in the courts where they actually defined what a woman is. I know we're in 2025, and that's the kind of things that have to be tested in court. But do you know what's happening in the UK off the back of that?
Yeah, so in the UK, even before the court case, they'd already started to tighten up the policies. I don't know that there was any policy that fully banned men entirely, but they definitely tightened up policies in certain places when it came to men who had been violent or had sexual crimes or that kind of thing. And especially, I don't know if you remember the case in Scotland with Isla Bryson, who was a double convicted male rapist, whose case was basically got blown up in the media as well. And Nicola Sturgeon, who was the then First Minister, got asked about it. And it was so pathetic and it was so embarrassing that I actually think it helped to take down the Scottish, to take her down basically, because it was just so humiliating for her. Because she couldn't basically argue about the fact that she couldn't say that this wasn't a man who didn't deserve to be in a women's prison. She basically put the rights of pedophiles above the woman. But anyway, that case triggered an urgent review into the Scottish policy, and I believe they tightened their policy. I don't think it bans trans-identified males entirely, but it was made a lot more restrictive. And similar things happened in England as well, and also in, I think it might be Wales, because there were also cases in England where a man who I think, I want to say his name's Karen White, I think it was, who also was a sex offender who then went in and sexually assaulted women in prison.
Isn't it crazy that it's like sex offenders, like specifically sex offences that they're getting locked up for, and then they're putting them in with women? Like, it's not just like I don't know, like it's not like a financial crime, or like these are people that have committed the vilest acts, sex acts, and then putting them into a situation where it just seems like you're feeding them meat. Like,
it's like throwing the fox in with the chickens. That's the exact analogy.
Exactly. That's what it feels like here. And it's like, you know what? If you're so worried about their safety, then put them in solitary, like in a men's prison. Let them be in solitary. You know, I've got zero. I think the public would not. What's it called when they sentence somebody? There's an expectation of the public to the sentencing, and that's what it's meant to be guided by. The public would be. I guarantee you, I can take any poll across Australia still today. Well, we haven't lost it, but even like. This is the one issue that I think goes across political lines, like on both sides, the left, the far left, almost the far, actually. All right, I might be pushing. The left, like the normal left, the centrist left, to all the way to the right, the vast majority of Australians would have an expectation that you lock them up in a men's prison, and if you're really worried about them, put them in solitary. We don't care. We actually have little sympathy for somebody that's abused a freaking child.
100%. And look, the thing is, Avi, like there are obviously, I mean, if this man is supposedly vulnerable, maybe he is, maybe he isn't, whatever. As you say, he's abused a 5-year-old, so my sympathies aren't very strong for him
I don't
either.
care. Yeah.
But the reality is there are other vulnerable males in male prisons, and they need to do something. They need to sort that out. Like, they do sort that out. You know what I mean? Like, they have provisions for those people, and so they can do that for these people as well within the male prison estate, not within the female prison estate.
But this is like an extreme example, right? Because it's not just the problems in prison either, Rachel. Like, this kind of touches all aspects of our lives, especially for women, whether it's changing rooms, whether it's in the schooling system that we're seeing these kind of things being pushed through as well. So doesn't it make sense that if we normalize this in everyday life, when it does come to the prison issue, there are going to be people that argue that, yes, these people are, as they claim to be, and they do deserve to be in the women's prison. Like, doesn't that all kind of flow? Isn't there a flowing effect from that?
100%. This is the logical conclusion of the insanity of gender ideology, locking up vulnerable women with sex offenders and rapists, and potentially murderers and etc. as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's even if it's just a man and not necessarily someone with a sexual crime, that man still is different to those women. He still is stronger. He still has, different ways of approaching sexuality, all that kind of stuff. And women deserve to have privacy and dignity away from men in intimate spaces like prisons. But yeah, you're right, Rukshan. Like, this is just one aspect of how this ideology is impacting like every aspect of our society, from, as you say, schools to sports to the education system. It's just everywhere. But you would think with something as horrendous as this, that, as you say, Avi, that everyone could agree. And I think most right-thinking people do agree, but unfortunately, some of the people in power don't seem to be very right-thinking.
Yeah, I saw an interview. I was just trying to find it while we were talking. It was from the UK, and it's from at least a few years ago. I think when I was researching stuff. Oh, here actually. Here we go. 2 years ago. Have a watch of this.
Trans women are women, but in the prison context, there is no automatic right for a trans woman.
So there are contexts where a trans woman is not a woman.
This is what you were talking about.
No, there is circumstances in which a trans woman will be housed in the male prison estate.
Is there any context in which a woman born as a woman will be housed in the male estate?
Look, we're talking here about trans women.
And I'm now asking about women born as women.
I don't think there are circumstances there, but...
So it's different for trans women?
Well, yes, and I'm not...
So they're not equal?
That is not... There is a risk assessment process done for trans women that takes account of the nature of the crime. Clearly, significant concern arises out of sexual crime and whether it's appropriate for them to be in a female prison or a male prison.
Moving on to your legislation. Should someone who has a history of committing sexual crimes against women be allowed to get a gender recognition certificate?
Well, there are, of course, provisions in that legislation, which is not yet in force, whereby if somebody is going through the process of getting a gender recognition certificate and there are concerns about that, there can be a pause put on that.
But it does go to your point that you were making earlier, I think, Rukshan, is that, and you, Rachel, that if you accept this in the real world every day, then you have to accept it in the prison context, because it's either true or it's not. And that's where she was tripping up. And that's what that interview kind of exposed, is that she ends up admitting there is a difference, but that goes against the entire ideology. And you can't only apply it to, which is what Rukshan was trying to say, you can't only apply it to the prison, because as soon as you do that, then everyone has something to point to and go, you see? It's a bit like that argument, when you have a medical emergency and they ask you, if you can get pregnant, or if you're pregnant, they're not going to, for a man, they're not going to, there's no point for them because it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. So there are certain...
Our Sex Discrimination Commissioner would actually beg to differ, because she thinks that trans males deserve pregnancy protections under sex discrimination law. So,
but
I get the point.
The idea is like we had something to point to that you go, look, there are certain situations where it like medical emergencies in a life or death situation, you're going to say, no, I can't get pregnant. But if you're somebody that can get pregnant, if you're a woman, then you'll have a different answer, especially if it is life or death. If you're going to save your life by answering correctly, or you're going to put yourself in danger. But here, if they gave you an example in the real world where it actually has real life consequences, and so they have to, and that's what she's saying there. There is a formula, like we kind of work out, is this person, and they're talking about people with sex crimes. So it would be this exact guy that's in a women's prison now. Is it when they've committed sexual offences, which seems like a no-brainer. Like, if you're already a sex abuser, then why would we put you in an environment which is so much more dangerous? I would argue never put a man in a women's jail, but in this case, especially, you wouldn't do that.
100%. And that's the exact interview I was telling you about earlier that sort of helped bring her down. But I saw another interview with her recently, which talks about how she dealt with that whole situation. And she kind of says, I didn't deal with it very well. And then she basically says, like, if you've committed sort of, those kinds of horrendous crimes, and you really forfeit your right to be the gender of your choice. And the journalist was like, so what? Sorry, what was that? And then she was like, I probably shouldn't have said that. And then it was just so ridiculous. Like, you literally, with gender ideology, you tie yourself in knots and you can't get out of it.
But you always do. That's why I have fun when I do Billboard Chris on the street. I always find those so fun, not just because I think he's just a master at it, and he is just a good dude to hang around. Like, he's the opposite to Rukshan. He's nice, tall, handsome, smart. No, he is like, I've done a lot of street stuff with people, and he's one of the easiest, the cruisiest people to do it with. And but what you notice on that specific topic is they tie themselves in knots so quickly and so easily, because it is so bloody ridiculous when you think about it.
That's right.
Yeah, it's make believe.
All right, you've got you do have a petition going. Do you want to tell us about that and how people can find it? So you run. What's your role in the Women's Forum? Is this your baby?
Yeah, well, I didn't start it, so I've been involved with Women's Forum for about 9 years. It was started 20 years ago, but I'm the CEO, and I've been running it for probably about 6 or 7 years of that time. So yes, I'm at the helm of Women's Forum Australia, and I've got my colleague Stephanie Bastian, who I think you know, who's our head of advocacy, and we've got a few others involved as well. But this is the petition that's part of our campaign on this prisons issue. And so basically what we're doing is we are petitioning Jacinta Allen to take action to remove this man and all men from women's prisons of Victoria, for them to basically conduct an inquiry as to how he was placed there in the first place, given his history, and to make sure they update policy to ensure that it never happens again. We've also asked that she look at the sentence he's received as well, and to look at the sentences of other men who have used their gender identity to try and sort of say that they should receive a lighter sentence. So I think that's also incredibly appalling. And so, yeah, basically the petition's on our website at womensforumaustralia.org/get-them-out. And what we're doing is we're encouraging people to sign. We are continually updating the Premier with the signatures. We're also going to have a tool in there shortly which will assist people to email MPs and authority figures as well on this issue, to ensure that they're getting sort of constant messages and contact from people, because the reality is, like, they are only going to care when they think it's going to hurt them, and they're going to think it's going to hurt them, especially if Victorians, Australians more broadly, but especially if Victorians are sort of in their ear and saying, we don't think this is good enough.
Yeah, I'm signing it as we're speaking. There we go. Guys, go ahead and sign the petition. There you go. You get even a nice thank you note. Now I've lost the petition. Is there an easy way to find it on the front of your page? Tell me there is.
Yes, it's right there. This one. Yeah.
Is it that one? So you can go straight to the website, sign the petition. You've got, a decent amount of signatures, 15,236 signatures. That's, as somebody that has done a lot of petitions, I'd say that's pretty decent in Australia. But I think that it deserves a lot more. And I think that it's people like you and your organisation that are going to be the reason why some of this madness is going to pull back. It is insane. And I agree with every part of that. That first things first is get them out of the women's jail. But secondly, look at the minimum mandatory sentences for a bunch of stuff. You know, in Victoria, we've got these youth gangs, you know, machete gangs, and they come up with the dumbest ideas to combat it. What machete bins? You know, we brought that up in Israel to these Israeli kids, and they're all like, "What machete? What are you talking about?" We're like, "What? Don't you have machete bins here?" But it's just the way that this government looks at combating these violent crimes, whether it's machete attacks or sex crimes, is like insane. The thing that works is, and you know what? I don't even care if it works. Like when they say works, they're talking about rehabilitation. I don't care. I don't care. Lock them up. Protect the community from these machete attackers and these sexual attackers. And the machete ones, the latest new idea is to have African courts to deal with it. So if you extend that to this issue, guess what they're going to have next is trans courts to understand the issues of the... It's like, no,
don't
just...
too many ideas, Avi.
but I'm saying that is Victoria, and if we don't have people like you and your organisation to actually be at the forefront of this fight, I guarantee you we'll end up there. We will end up at trans courts. I know it sounds ridiculous, but is it more ridiculous than a dude saying he's a woman and then getting locked up in a women's jail?
No, that's right. I like if you can think of it, they can do it. So I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised if they reported something on that tomorrow deciding that's what they're doing. But I really think that this needs to be a turning point for Australia. I think that we are not in 2020 anymore. This is 2025. Things have shifted so much in other places, in the UK, the US, so on and so forth. And last time, like I said, in 2022, when we were dealing with this issue, that was a few years ago. And I don't think the zeitgeist had shifted quite as much as it has now. And so, as you said before, this is an issue this is just one part of a bigger issue. But I think that if we can really hit home on this issue, then everything else falls apart. If you can no longer be considered a woman because you're a sex offender, then why should you be considered a woman at all?
Exactly. It either is or it isn't.
Exactly.
It's insane. Let's read a couple of these super chats because they're, I think, directed. I'll read the ones that are directed at you, I think, guys. So if you put super chats that are not directed at Rachel, then you're just going to have to wait. Cruel Intentions, I think that was a typo. I don't think he's calling you a hoe, but he's like, "Hi, Rachel. You and the Women's Forum are doing great work exposing the sickos. Keep it up." Cruel Intentions, thanks for the super chat, but next time, like, come on, that's like the most unfortunate typo you could have.
This is the Women's Forum. You might be hearing from them, Cruel Intentions.
Yeah.
You might end up on a list.
It's going to cost you more than $10 next time. You
Appreciate it.
That's pretty funny though. Let's just see. We have Michael says LGBTQ elbow protects pedophilia. That's at the end of the day. That's what this is not Albo. This is but it's all the same. It's the Labor Party. It's like I don't know. Like it's protecting them by the low prison sentence, but on top of it, it goes not only to children but also to women. Like it's so insane that they can put it. It doesn't make any sense. I don't think it doesn't pass the pub test for any normal person. Q for Rachel. Can this monster be charged in the US? And has that monster been charged in the US? Do we know that?
That's a very good question. No, I'm not sure. I might have to look into that. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, if the Australian authorities have dealt with it, which they have, I'm not sure if the US authorities would then go and do that because...
Well, I'd imagine there'd be offences there in their jurisdiction, just possessing child porn. But it would be interesting to find out. You'd think they did, because obviously they would need evidence for some of the case here from police there. So I would hope so, but it would probably be worth. I might shoot off a media request to the AFP on that. That's interesting, because you would think so. You would think, just knowing how these cases play out, that they require some sort of evidence from the US side, which means
I think they found out about this guy because the US had maybe done a big bust and a sort of sting photos over there, and so the guy that he was corresponding with, I imagine, was charged there, but they've left the Australians to deal with our own. Really.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. There's another comment on this one. Eric, thank you for the super chat. Says PDF files. Oh, that's a new. I noticed the way people write all these things on the internet to avoid writing the words, because I think they get you. Get treated real well in male prisons. Maybe that's why they transition before offending. Disgusting that politicians defend them. And I think that that's a brilliant point, because I agree. I think that that's. I don't know in this story if it's because it sounds like in the court case the transition happened
supposedly before the offending, yeah. But we do know that there are prisoners who such transition once they're in prison. Like I know of cases here and overseas, and we also know that there have been certain places overseas where there have been so many who have transitioned after being convicted that they've actually got this term which they've coined called prison onset gender dysphoria, where men in particular start to identify as women after they've been convicted. And then there's also been studies which have shown that these same men have actually stopped identifying as women after they've got out of prison. So,
but do you hear? Can you give us that name again for what they call them? The technical term.
You mean the term that was coined was prison onset gender dysphoria. Because
but they give it a real scientific ring to it, that it sounds legitimate, and it's like, dude, it's just guys that want to get out of the men's prisons, probably because they're being bashed for abusing kids. Like, it is so. It's like when you think you haven't heard the craziest part of these stories, then you go ahead and you tell us something like that.
But I agree with you, Rachel. Like, this could be a turning point, because I do see more uproar about this, and I see just people getting more involved in this, especially women that may have not really been paying attention to this issue. So, unfortunately, it's these type of incidents, and sometimes even more horrific incidents, that end up raising awareness. Sadly,
you know what? I also think it's a political climate. There was, we hit peak woke in 2020, when we had Daniel Andrews pushing back every time there was, like, when people got outraged about the drag story times in public libraries, so what he did was he raised the trans flag at the parliament and bought a trans drag thing to read to children, and they did a whole show. And I think, that was the peak of it, and not just here, like, I think globally, and everybody started to, like, your average person, so not your activists, like, in 2016, 17, 18, 19, up to that peak, it was your activists that were pushing back, who to many people probably seemed crazy as the actual stuff itself, because they were just going on about it, because those people saw the problem and were, like, outraged early on and were pushing back hard. But then when the average person got to see, like in Victoria, where Daniel Andrews' response to something that seems odd to the average person, his response was, let's bring it to the corridors of power and let's make a statement and let's raise this flag. That rubbed the average person up the wrong way, and they go, hold on, there's something going on here. And then you have, obviously, the Trump re-election, where he's gone in hard on all these issues, and suddenly it's become okay to almost mock it, to also, talk about the military. You remember in the Biden administration, like,
how many of them
were, like, in these positions of power, and how many, like, military. I was watching some speech by some military official trans military official during the Biden administration, who was just talking about how you need to everybody needs to put the pronouns in their thing. If you think you don't, you especially need to do it, and you should encourage people to talk about. And it's like, how did we get there? But now Trump has kind of reversed that, and the Overton window has kind of shifted, and people are more comfortable in talking about it. And now that Twitter's opened, and even Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, now because they've all been forced to have this acceptable conversation, this conversation that we're having now has suddenly become, like a year ago, prior to Trump's re-election, if we did this on YouTube, it would be nuked.
It's true, and that's exactly why I think we have to make the most of the situation, and we cannot let them get away with what they're doing, because I do think it speaks to a broader situation in this country. And while there are other places who are making changes, we're not actually at that stage yet. We have to still really hammer this onto our politicians, because the reality is there are so many activists in our governments that if the people don't actually fight back and speak out, even if the climate is changing, even if people are feeling more comfortable to speak about it, even if things are changing overseas, they're not actually going to act and do anything unless they feel the pressure, because there's so many captured politicians. I really think we cannot miss making the most of this moment and holding the government to account, and also not just the Labor government in Victoria, but the governments around the country and our federal government in relation to all this gender ideology nonsense.
Well, to that point, Andy says, thanks for super chat. Andy says, Jacinta Allen is the government, and the Corrections Act and corrections regulation are her business, which is exactly the point. Well said, Andy. Michael says that man should be in an asylum, not in a prison. Do you know what?
We don't have asylums anymore.
We probably need to start reopening it, not just on this issue. If you walk around most left-wing protests these days, I think we can fill it pretty quickly. But yeah, I think in cases where they genuinely believe that they are they've got gender dysphoria and it's not just to get out of jail, I think they need help. Not so to
Absolutely.
that point. But but if they're trying to get out of jail, no, I reckon put them in the men's jail, in the proper jail. And you know what? I wouldn't even put them in protection. If they abused children, if they got convicted of sexual offences against children, put them in Gen Pop and let them be treated. Let them feel what those kids felt. Let them feel powerless and abused by men that scare them. I'm sorry if that sounds harsh, but that's just how I feel about it. So two more. Michael says again, so trans man goes to men's prison, I hope. Trans man, so has that ever happened? Has
Not that I know of, and that's an interesting one, right? Because I'm sure they would be. In fact, I remember seeing a story. It was in New Zealand. It was a little while ago now, but there was actually uproar because a trans man, who's a biological woman, had been put in a man's prison. And that was basically considered a violation of her human rights, which is like, well, why is that? Because she's supposedly a man.
That's so interesting. Was that her that fought it? That was her that
she should never have been put in that prison. Yeah, I'll have to find the story. But yeah.
What a confession that is.
Just zero consistency.
I know. It's crazy.
But that is a really interesting story. And that just proves that, that we all get it. There is a difference. There is a biological difference. And no matter what you think and what you change and what chemicals you put in your body, you're not going to change that. Last super chat on this issue, Cruel Intentions, who is not calling you names this time. In fact, this time says, shout out to Angie Jones and the ladies who turned up to prison at the prison to protest. She was also interviewed for the story in The Age. Finally, I think the media went hard on her. I know she's no fan of mine. I don't know if she still isn't, but they've always really gone hard on her, and I've always thought it was unfair. Mind you, she's gone super hard on me, so
really?
I shouldn't feel that.
I think Angie's a legend, but I hadn't known about any of that. But she's she's been doing some great work to call out all.
No, and I've always seen her at all these things. She's always been at the front line of these protests. So good on her. I don't need someone to like me to recognise that she actually stands.
Not many people like Avi. So
yeah, if you know what, if I'm gonna start writing people off who don't like me, then I'm not gonna be able to support many people. But no, exactly. Cruel Intentions, you're right, absolutely. And these people need credit. People need credit, and people that have been consistent through the hard times, because it's really easy to jump on the bandwagon when it gets popular. We see that on so many. Heck, we saw that with Charlie Kirk. Suddenly, everybody's, all these activists from all different sides are suddenly acting like they were supporting of Charlie Kirk, and when he was alive, it wasn't. But it just became popular, and a lot of these issues, a lot of political issues. COVID was another great example. People who condemned us during COVID, and then suddenly towards the end or after the fact, look at Piers Morgan, rewrites history. Suddenly there was, and the people that fought it from the beginning, the Billboard Chris's, the Angie Jones, Posey Parker. I love her to bits. These are the people that should get supported and recognised for everything that they did and do.
Yeah, I will just say as well, Avi, on the credit note, obviously we've been working with lots of women's advocates around the country on this particular campaign, and they've sort of helped be responsible for the huge blowing up of media coverage this week. But I will just say, with Redux, who's the overseas online application,
are they Canadian? I think
the founder or founders may be Canadian, but they sort of operate across lots of different spaces. But it took an international publication to break the story. There was no media reporting of it during the trial. No media reporting of the fact that this was.
Was there a gag order on it?
I'm not actually sure about that.
But, because that would be the only legitimate justification I would give to the media a pass on if there was a gag order. And I wouldn't be surprised if our judicial system in Victoria, especially giving somebody such a light sentence and putting him in a female's prison, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a gag order.
Yeah, there may well could have been. But even now, even after all the coverage this week, still not a peep from the ABC, not a peep from SBS. It's like, why are we paying people? It's absolutely ridiculous.
Exactly.
If I can count the many the times that we've called to defund the ABC, we would be really rich. Well, I want to thank you for joining us tonight and for everything that you do. Where can people find you? Obviously, you've got your website and the petition, guys. Make sure to go sign it. I don't sign many petitions. I definitely put out more petitions than I sign, but I think that this is an important cause, and I want to be updated. So I'm assuming you're going to send us the updates. But where can people find you?
Thank you firstly for signing, and then yes, obviously our website, womensforumaustralia.org, and then myself and Women's Forum are on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and X. So you can find us across all those platforms. We do a lot more updating on social media than we do on the website. Although once you've signed up to our mailing list on the website, then you will get updates as well, obviously via email. Hopefully people do follow us and reach out, and we really grow this petition. And I also just want to say thank you to both of you for the awesome work that you're doing. I think I came across both of you during the pandemic, and you were both just such a bright, shining beacon of light amidst all the absolute insanity that was going on. I really, really appreciate both of your work.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thanks, Rachel. Have a good night, and we'll speak soon.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Bye.
Good on
I like the Women's Forum, man.
They are good.
It's good to have these organizations, and you're talking about people before. I think J.K. Rowling has also been a massive force.
Oh, yeah.
Even just recently, she's just gone after the Harry Potter actors, Emma Watson and a few others, and just calling them out. You need these big voices. Obviously, these organizations are important, and they do shift the discussion. And you just need, and they've always stood firm. I think that's the thing. That's what's great about Posey Parker, all these other guys like Rachel. When they do get attacked, they don't cower. And that makes a massive difference in the long run. So I just sent you another image, Avi, from the Manchester attack. There's a clearer image of the assailant that they've shot dead.
I just want to be careful because I'm going to clip when we come off this.
No. It's nothing. He hasn't been shot or anything.
Yeah, just because I think also just on your YouTube, maybe clip. I'm worried that footage. So just go into your after and just clip that.
Just delete it.
Cut it out. Yeah.
Of YouTube. There's the shooting, but this is just an image of the bloke. It does look like he was wearing some sort of belt.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a bomb belt. He does look strapped.
And he does look like he was not a native Englishman, should I say?
Yeah, I mean,
I get that look from here.
The Prime Minister is holding an emergency meeting, Cobra gathering. They are treating it as a terror attack. So that's the latest. So it is being escalated into a serious incident, and it's still not confirmed if the people that were stabbed, the multiple people, are actually alive or dead or not. So there's a lot more going on here, obviously.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Oh, here we go. So they got. What do we got here? I'm just pulling up the BBC things, see what they're. They're not giving much on this one. Let's see if they give us something here.
Of the Israeli military, for example, but that doesn't seem to matter to a lot of those committing these kind of abusive attacks.
Yeah, Aleem, for the moment, thank you. Martine, I know you've been keeping across all the lines. Obviously, we're getting information what the attack happened, just over 2 hours ago, and lots of reaction coming in.
Yeah, a lot of reaction. And just to add to what Aleem was saying about the fears that this will stoke in the Jewish community, and we're hearing quite a few politicians, understandably, trying to offer words of support and comfort to that community. We heard that Sakir Starmer said he's appalled by the attack that's happened at the synagogue in Krumsel.
The people responsible for amplifying this hate that's caused
it. The Jewish calendar makes it all the more horrific, he says. My thoughts are with the loved ones of all those affected.
We don't need your thoughts,
to the emergency services and all of the first responders. For her part, Kemi Badenoch, the Conservative leader, has also been talking about this. She's described this attack as vile and disgusting. She's been speaking to colleagues of ours in BBC Radio, and she said, this has happened while I've been on air with our colleagues at Radio Bristol, so I haven't seen the full details, but she said it looks like an outrageous attack on the Jewish community on their holiest day, Yom Kippur. I think it's a vile and disgusting attack. I know that many Jewish people in our country feel they are no longer safe. My heart goes out to the people who have been hurt by this and everyone who's been affected. And she goes on to say, and this will probably be echoed by quite a number of people in public life, a number of politicians, I want to say to Jewish people around our country, you belong here.
You will
Britain
not.
is a country which will look after you.
This will not come as a surprise, but we already have the tweets going up saying that it's a false flag, that this was a operation by the Mossad, and it's all a performative attempt by the Jewish population to garner sympathy. So that's already out there. I'm sure Clandis and a few others will jump on the bandwagon for this type of nonsense. But yeah, I mean, it's horrific. Obviously, people in the UK would be worried, especially Jews observing this holy time, that there might be other attacks planned as well.
I think Jews in general, this has been a fear of theirs globally, especially in countries where you're unarmed. I know in Florida it's less of an issue because in Florida, I know when I went to the synagogue there, everybody's carrying, and so nobody's coming to an attack to mow down and try stab anyone. But hearing Keir Starmer come out with his thoughts and prayers, it's infuriating because their rhetoric over the last 2 years and what they've allowed to happen on the streets in their capitals, in Manchester, in London, has kind of made it okay for people to do this. Here we go.
And all of our thoughts with those affected. I'm on my way back to London. When I arrive, I will chair an emergency COBRA meeting. I'm already able to say that additional police assets are being deployed to synagogues across the country, and we will do everything to keep our Jewish community safe. I've spoken to Mark Gardner of the CST and Andy Burnham, Mayor of Manchester, and I want to thank the emergency services for the speed of their response.
Well, let's go straight back to the scene in Manchester and our reporter Anna Jameson, who is there.
I just, instead of you tell...
very fast-moving incident this morning. Just take us through what we know and how the investigation is continuing behind you.
Yes, so I'm at the scene of the incident in the heart of Crumpsall here, and it happened behind me at the Heaton Park Hebrew Synagogue at 9:31 a.m. Greater Manchester Police said it received a call from a witness to say that it saw a vehicle drive into the synagogue. It's an Orthodox synagogue here on the Day of Atonement, the holiest day in the Jewish calendar. Now, 7 minutes later, Greater Manchester Police says the offender was shot, but 4 people are believed to have been injured by both the vehicle and stab wounds. Now, as a precautionary measure, Fairfield Hospital in Bury, around 10-15 minutes away, and the Royal Oldham as well, have both been put on lockdown as a precautionary measure. So 2 hospital trusts there, as we know of so far, taking action. But shots were fired by Greater Manchester Police, and it's understood that the incident is now contained. But as you can see behind me, there is a huge emergency services presence. We've got helicopters flying overhead. We have the fire and rescue service on hand, paramedics, and a number of police vehicles here as well, all in dealing with this incident. Now, the Greater Manchester Police have declared a major incident known as Plato. Plato is the code name for UK and police and an emergency services response. It's a protocol to marauding terrorist attacks, like knife attacks, like vehicle attacks, as to what has happened this morning. But Crumpsall is a multicultural area, but there is a large Jewish presence. Forgive me, you'll be able to hear the helicopter flying overhead now. But it is a multicultural area, and apparently there's around 35 synagogues, each with their own congregations here in North Manchester. And there's lots of other communities that live side by side, huge Muslim population, huge Ukrainian population.
There you have it, yeah. So I was waiting for him to say there's a large Muslim population there too. And this is like, this is the thing. And what I was about to say about Keir Starmer and his empty words and his police, it's like you're vilifying of Israel and the only Jewish state and emboldening those that have been rallying for Hamas over the last 2 years. Of course it was going to land here. Of course it's going to end up there. And guess what? Once they're done here targeting the Jews because you made it okay to target the Jews, trust me, they're coming at you too. And too late because you made it okay. And I don't even engage in the false flag stuff. That stuff's just a joke. And in the UK,
he has dropped his meeting or whatever he was doing in Copenhagen. He's left all that and he's flying back. So, at least the appearance of taking this seriously is happening.
Of course, it's going to take it seriously. The only reason why they take it seriously is because it looks shocking for them. On the holiest Jewish day, you've got, Jews being mowed down and stabbed by a jihadi in the middle of Manchester. Mass migration and emboldening these jihadis. It is going to, and yeah. When Jews say they don't feel safe in the West, in the UK, when you see how many Jews are moving to Israel, it's because of that. And Jews, you think Jews here in Melbourne don't fear this? Of course they fear it because they see it all the time. They see the people who get away with, taking a year and a half to find somebody who firebombed synagogues and burnt it to the ground, or people who drive through the Jewish communities trying to intimidate Jews. I've seen that with my own eyes. We've seen it. We've reported on it.
Yep.
So, anyways, hopefully we'll see how that all unfolds. Read a couple of these super chats we've got here. Sorry, Baz earlier said before, I just didn't bring it up because it wasn't a thing, is no matter how much you hate the mainstream media, you don't hate them enough. Michelle Mallet.
They're always giving reasons to hate them more.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
True, Baz. Thank you for that. I can't believe he called her a hoe, though. Or was that Cruel Intentions? That was Cruel Intentions.
Cruel Intentions. There could have been sexist or racist if you look at it.
That's actually funny. Michael says, first beer time to get more hammered. Boom, boom. I don't know.
Thanks, mate. Get hammered on our behalf.
Yeah, is that, I don't know if, are you telling us you're going for a beer? I want a beer, actually. I feel like a beer. Equity says these people cheered on a man beating up a woman at the Olympics and gave him a gold medal. That's true. That's going back to the conversation we were having before. Good point, Equity. Should we touch this digital ID or?
We can save it for next time if we've gone a bit over. So
that's it's all right. I don't think it's very long. There's 2 short clips. Should we just quickly hammer it out?
Let's go into it. Yeah.
Because it was our title. The only reason why we got sidetracked is obviously that there was that attack in the middle, but it's not too long. Let's first watch the British story that kind of kicked this off at first. The discussion again here. Do I got to pay my internet bill? Is that the problem?
Is it muted?
Yeah, I am muted.
Prove they live and can work here. Well, under plans to be announced by the Prime Minister here in the UK on an issue that's divided the country over the last few decades. Every adult will need a new government-issued digital ID to prove they live and can work here. Well, under plans to be announced by the Prime Minister on Friday, the move is part of efforts to crack down on illegal working. Most European countries already require their citizens to hold ID cards, but the UK has long resisted with concerns over civil rights and privacy issues. Here's our political correspondent, Ian Watson.
ID cards are not a new idea. They were compulsory during the war and not abolished until 1952. The idea was revived in 2005 by Tony Blair's government.
Look into the mirror.
The then Home Secretary was seeing how these biometric cards would work. They were supposed to tackle illegal working and establish entitlement to public services, but the scheme faced technical challenges and political opposition and hadn't been implemented by the time of the...
Anyways, I think that's from before Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer announces that they're implementing. I'll see if there's one quote. No, this was obviously a report from before. And then
I mean, now, basically, you got the video?
No, I want to bring. Yeah, I'll find it. 2 seconds. My thing's bugging out. I don't know what the hell's going on here. Oh, here we go. What was it? Keir Starmer. And then I've got Malcolm Roberts, which talks about it in Australia. Because that's the point here, is like when you talk about what is happening here, look at what's going on there. No matter what the government tells us here, it is definitely coming here. Keir Starmer, no, I just want to see his press conference. Where is it?
This is at the Labour conference where he announces that... or whatever talk he was doing, digital global something.
To be spent by local people, however they see fit, in their communities, restoring...
Is taking to the stage. We'll listen to what he has to say as he lays out his plans for digital IDs.
Introduction. Thank you to all of you here for joining us today. And can I take this early opportunity to thank all of those that worked behind the scenes to bring this event together and allow us this opportunity to discuss. So thank you very much to them. Now, this is a gathering of people bound by a common cause, the patriotic renewal of our nations, that is underpinned by the values of dignity and respect, equality and fairness, and the belief
I'll send you the clip.
that social democratic means
Yeah, send me the
are
clip
best way
because this is like the whole speech.
You don't want to listen to the Labour propaganda where...
Oh my God,
you
anyway,
don't want to subject people to that.
How he talks about the patriot, he's turned into like the language that he's starting to use is all from Nigel Farage. It's all Nigel Farage stuff. It's just hilarious that he's trying to be reform. Here we go. This is it. Good work, mate.
Announcing this government will make a new free of charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this Parliament. Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID. It's as simple as that. Because decent, pragmatic, fair-minded people, they want us to tackle the issues that they see around them. And of course, the truth is, we won't solve our problems if we don't also take on the root causes, looking upstream to tackle poverty, conflict.
So all in the name of...
Bit of a gaslighting there happening, massive gaslighting, because the whole pretense is that this is somehow to deal with the issue of illegal immigration, which is a massive issue in the UK right now. And you've had these massive protests and people asking for solutions and changes to the policies around immigration and even illegal immigration, obviously to stop illegal immigration. And what does the government do? They come out and say, well, yeah, we got an idea. We're going to introduce a digital ID on everyone. It's going to be mandatory if you want to work. And that will help curb illegal immigration, which is just utter nonsense. Like, just to conflate those two issues in the manner that they've done, for something that they were always planning to do, and they were, the infrastructure's been there. They've always wanted to do this, but now they've found this, great little story that somehow it's to protect people from illegal immigration.
And make no mistake,
it's kind of sick and twisted.
The government here has claimed that it is going to be, it's not going to be compulsory. I guarantee you, it's like the vaccine mandates where they told you in the beginning it was going to be offered to everyone. It is 100% going to be mandatory. That is what they're aiming. They're going to copy that, and they'll use whatever pretext. They'll use whatever excuse when the time comes, like they did with vaccine mandates. When the time actually came, they said they had to make it. They had to mandate it because they needed a certain amount of whatever excuse. It was the world is going to collapse if you don't mandate it. So they pretend at first, they introduce the idea. He's just gone in hard, but he's come at it straight from the immigration thing, which is the complete lie. You can definitely tackle immigration. We've done it here.
There's plenty of ways.
Yeah, there's plenty of ways. But we'll watch this Malcolm Roberts.
Pull up Malcolm Roberts
speech, because he's been on this for a while.
Is about to change for every Australian. As much as Senator Gallagher seeks to downplay the significance of introducing one central digital identifier for each and every Australian, the reality is this is the most significant legislation I've seen in my time in the Senate. It's the glue that holds together the digital control agenda by which every Australian will be controlled, corralled, exploited and then gagged when they speak or act in opposition. This bill will be misused because this bill is written to be misused. The government knows digital ID will be compulsory by the device of preventing access to government services, banking services, air travel and major purchases for any Australian who does not have a digital ID. The digital ID will in effect create a live data file of your movements, purchases, accounts and associates containing reference to every piece of data being held in the private and government sector as a first step in a wider agenda. Those listening at home may be wondering how an individual could avoid being drawn into this net of data, trading and surveillance. The simple answer is you can't. The government knows control will be used by government to identify people who say mean things on social media to speed up enforcement of our new laws against saying home truths to crazy or dishonest people. No hiding behind anonymous accounts or false addresses. You can expect a knock on your door at home, work or school, as we're seeing happening in other countries with digital identity already in place.
Some good points. I mean, and it seems like hyperbole, but this is the end goal of all of this. And with the digital ID in Australia, yes, they're saying it's going to be voluntary, which is the word that they use. But like you said, Avi, the institutions and whether it's banks or whether it's where you work, they'll implement something.
The same people that's saying it's going to be voluntary also said that the vaccine was voluntary.
Yeah, so that all plays into it, right? And then people are like, oh well, what's the big deal? Everything's digital anyway, so it's like a convenience thing. Well, this is the thing is when the government gets involved in centralizing any point of identification where it's all centralized and all ties into the one thing, that gives them just extra levels of control over our lives. And the best example of this, with power. The best example of this is what they did in Canada, and that was without digital ID. But when the government decided to shut down the bank accounts of those truckers
Yeah.
who were processing during COVID, that is the extent that governments are willing to go to. And if you give them a centralized system where they can just turn off the tap when they choose, based on whether it's social credit or whether it's a emergency or whether it's another pandemic, whatever it is, if you give them the tools and the means to do it, when it comes time, they will find ways in the legislation, or they'll introduce new legislation to interpret what they've already made to allow them to do this. And you're basically just giving up freedoms. And it's once you give these things up, it's hard to crawl back and change the system, as it were. So it's worth fighting for. And I think there's a petition that's being done in the UK that has amassed, I think, 2.5 million plus signatures of people who have signed this petition. And they only need 100,000 signatures to actually take it to a debate in the parliament. So there is opposition to this. A lot of people from across different political aisles in the UK, whether it's the left, far left, the right, whatever, a lot of people are opposed to this for different reasons, and they all have their, whether it's supporting illegal immigration or whether it's, about freedom of speech and things like this. But there is a coalition building against this. So, look, it might be a possibility in the UK, at least, that they do put a stop to it. And this might actually be what undoes Keir Starmer, when more people, start to realize the harmful impact. Well, I mean, I think it's a good step in the right direction, but the end goal is for them to somehow push these things through. And for Australia, it's been happening in the background very slowly. Like all these things are coming together. Like it's not going to be this one definitive thing. We are going to be in our digital ID prison, like the frog boiling in the pan, right? And all the little layers and all the little different things, whether it's the social media bans and all these things and the facial recognition in December to access Facebook or whatever they want you to do, it all kind of comes together very slowly. So they're cooking us slowly here in Australia. At least in the UK, this guy's put out a definitive war cry that he wants to push digital ID, and people might push back against it. But
I think he just thought it was going to be way more popular.
He thought it sounds cool, but I don't think it's been accepted.
Well, I think because he was wrapping up the immigration thing, which has become popular on all sides now there, because they see the destruction mass illegal immigration causes, mass immigration in general, if you just go to the UK. But it's certainly backfiring.
Just imagine how illegal workplaces work right now. Like where they do cash in hand jobs for.
They're not taking ID.
They're not checking ID. Like what kind of ID are they checking? Like how is it going to stop anything? It doesn't.
Rubbish.
Like this is just BS bullshit.
It's an excuse that he thinks everyone's dumb. It's like you want a comparable legislation that or idea. It's like machete bins for criminals.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's
exactly.
like
digital ID for illegal immigrants. Like, what? Come on.
Let's read these super chats and then we'll call it a night. Avi, it says, Avi, who's the worst out of these woke, right? And if you had to pick one, and why? Andrew Tate, Tucker, Dan Bilzerian, or Clandis Owens? I would say Tucker.
Oh, really? I think it's Dan.
No,
because at least
why?
Tucker and I'll tell you why. Tucker, Clandis, Andrew Tate, they all they seem to have their own reasons or the purpose for doing it, or they're intellectual in some manner where they know how they're manipulating people. I think Dan's just like a bit of an idiot.
So Dan doesn't bother me for that reason. Okay, so when you say who's the worst, Dan's not effective. Like he's not changing minds.
He's not effective.
Right? Tucker is probably out of that group the most effective because he's the most sly about what he always keeps it at a distance far enough that his army of retarded bots can go, oh, he didn't say that. Hummus? Arabs eat hummus. I wasn't talking about the Jews. It's and so yeah, I'd say Tucker for that reason. Then Candace probably second. Andrew Tate third, just because I think he's a has-been, and I don't think he has that kind of power that he used to have. I think. And I think since his whole Islamic thing, people don't really take him that seriously on things. But yeah, that's my personal thing. But I accept your version, your pick. Thanks for super chat. Is Shanna Chad says, what are your thoughts on the Red Scare that occurred in America in the early 1950s? Do you think the threat was legit or just an overreaction? What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think it kind of happened all around the world. There was elements of this all around the world, but obviously it was very much a massive issue in the US. I think there was two sides to it. Obviously, there were obvious worries about the rise of whether it's Russia or the Soviet Union and communism, things like this. But at the same time, you can see governments taking advantage of those situations. Whether it's just what happened during that time, Avi, like how, in terms of the nuclear arsenals that were built up, just how power shifted during that time and how the US kind of ended up as this superpower. Yeah, maybe they needed to have that enemy. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Look, when you look at governments, especially superpowers or whatever, you've got
they need something. They need an enemy. They need something. They need a boogeyman.
So two things can be true at one time. There can be a real threat, and also the government can be using the real threat in a deceitful way for whatever end they want, and that happens every single day, and that's why, like in a democracy, we try to keep as much transparency as possible and hold the government accountable, and that's why we have all these systems that are meant to do that. Do they always work? Not necessarily, but yeah, screw the commies at the end of the day. So, thanks for the super chat though. Michael says, scammers get your digital ID, no problem, we'll give you another one. Problem is the government other scammers. Thanks for the super chat. Yeah, it's wild. It is crazy. A good example, and this is Eric's right, the good example is digital ID is China. It's like, and that's kind of what you were alluding to when you talked about the truckers in Canada. It's just like, one button to be able to switch you off, and that's
there's whole communities in China, like people living in certain streets and areas because they've been shut off from the system. The government have closed them off, like they don't exist per se as a normal citizen. And I was just watching this other crazy video from China today where there's a lady going around from house to house judging the houses, saying whether it's clean or not, and if it's not clean in the sense of the front yards, like the local council, you lose 5 points of your social credit. And at the same time, if neighbors dob in their neighbors who have unclean yards, they gain 5 points. So, I mean, that's an extreme example of how these systems can be manipulated by governments to incentivize all types of nonsense. But we saw what happens during COVID in even a country like Australia. People do dob on each other. People do turn on each other. Social credit does become something that is a currency, and it can be used to manipulate people to do certain things. And that's why you don't want those systems in place in a thriving democracy, because as soon as the government has some type of mean to control people's behavior, whether it's through a digital ID and social credit, then yes, they can make people bend to their will on policies and ideas that they might not necessarily agree with because they're afraid of losing their status. And we don't want that. We want to be free societies. We want to be able to criticize government. We want to be able to protest. We want to be able to have all these things that we cherish, that we've historically gained through blood and toil over decades, if not centuries, of fighting for it. And why give all that up to a centralized government ID? I just don't see the people that are rationalizing this. I don't think they understand the danger that this puts us in. Maybe we're overthinking it, but I just think it's a dangerous game that people are playing that support these type of systems.
Kelvin says, hey, Avi Rook, was wondering what your stance on Russia-Ukraine war is. Do you think Russia was wrong? It was in the wrong, and was Ukraine in the wrong? Or was Ukraine in the wrong? Thanks. I think firstly, Russia was definitely in the wrong for invading Ukraine. Like, there's no two ways about that. Does that mean Ukraine's a completely innocent partner in this, and they've not done any wrong, and Zelensky's the perfect leader that the media likes to portray him as in the West? No, I don't think that's true either. But if you're telling me I have to pick a side, I'm going to go against Russia every single time. Like, that's just the reality of, if you believe in freedom and democracy. As corrupt as Ukraine is, they are not Russia. As in, they don't. In Ukraine, you have elections. Like, and I know there's many faults, and it is super corrupt. And I don't think we're, I think that the West needs to put more pressure on Ukraine to actually be fully free, which it supposedly was doing. The problem is that the West has used Ukraine too much for their little Cold War thing. But if I have to pick a side in the conflict, if you're saying I have to pick a side, I feel like some of these conflicts, let them kind of fight it out, sort of thing. Although, I don't think it hurts to sanction something like Russia for doing that. You need. I think the way we've treated it, like throwing money at Ukraine like a bottomless pit. Like, at the end of the day, at some point, Ukraine's going to run out of people to fight Russia. They're just numbers. So I don't know that they can sustain this for much longer. You just need to. Hopefully, Trump can bring peace. But unlike a lot of these people on the right that somehow, for some reason, have turned into Putin apologists. Like, it's, dude, everything they say about Zelensky, much of it is true, but you can apply it to Putin tenfold. So the idea that somehow you're defending Russia, to me, is wild.
Yeah,
I don't know. What's your thoughts?
I was going to say, just on that last point, it is a shame that the West has fallen in such a way that people find certain aspects of Russian life or existence under that kind of regime attractive. Whereas Tucker went there, and I remember I was even defending Tucker during that time where he went there and he was amazed at the trolleys and all this kind of stuff.
Trolleys,
the shopping centers. But like we find those things, and how clean the metro is in Russia, in St. Petersburg or whatever, like how beautiful it is. And it's true. There are elements of, when you look at Russia and you compare the decay in our Western society, you're like, wow, maybe there's aspects of that that's correct. But overall, as people in the West, we have to understand that there is a difference between us. And yes, we are more in line with Ukraine. They are more a part of, what we look at. Again, it's not identical. But having said all that, Avi, I am someone that, understands that war is kind of a natural state of human existence. And you are going to have these conflicts, especially in those areas which have had conflicts for thousands and thousands of years. All of Europe is a mess, if you ask me. Like, that's the place that's been at constant warfare throughout its entire history. So, yeah, it is what it is in a way, and you want to see a peaceful solution. And unfortunately, if it means some territorial concessions, I mean, Obama did that before with the Crimea. You know what I mean? Like, so it's not nothing new that the West has had to deal with. So, do I agree with what the invasion and all this kind of stuff? No, obviously you don't want those things to happen. But once it does happen, and once you do have these type of powerful players at hand, you have to be able to, have someone like Trump or whoever try to negotiate some type of peace. But interestingly, of course, Trump has changed his whole tune in the last couple of weeks, and he's come out and said, Ukraine fight and hope they get back all the land and all this kind of stuff. So look, it's not how Trump portrayed what he would do when he won the presidency. Like, that's not, I think if you want to criticize him, that's one area where he's failed to really be effective is on this particular issue, because he's
There's
found
some breaking updates here. I'll just read some of the updates.
Multiple dead.
Yeah, so we have 2 dead, which I'm assuming includes the attacker at this stage. So there's
You think so? You think they include the attacker in that?
Yeah, because Greater Manchester Police says 2 people have died following the major incident, which would include the attacker, I imagine, at this point. But they said 4 injured. That means at least one of them have died. We have the bomb disposal unit now at the scene. So when we heard that they said that he was strapped with a bomb in the video, it seems to be true. That's images of the robot that they've brought in from the bomb disposal unit. 3 members of the... Okay, so I was right, because 4 were injured, 3 members of the public in serious condition, and 1 has died. Yeah. It's fucking shocking. But this is on the government. This is 100% on the escalating rhetoric we've seen from the Labor governments for their domestic political gain. That's the cost.
Yeah.
Dean says, good on you. Good to have you back on, fellas. Thank you, Dean, and thank you for the super chat. And Dean's come back with a super chat. Obviously, gone to your channel, gone super chat for the legend Rukshan too.
Thanks, mate. I appreciate it.
There you go, Rukshan.
He's hitting his diversity quotas.
Yeah.
He's
Dean
doing the DEI. Dean, you're probably going to get a promotion soon. Hopefully, your Indian supervisor at work is watching, and they'll decide to give you a pay rise or a promotion for your contribution to diversity.
Dean says, where is the world famous Abby King tonight?
That's true.
I dare say she was probably fasting, and because today's Jewish fasting, and it was Yom Kippur, and it ended like just before we went up. So she's probably taking a night off. Thanks for the super chat. And then we have Convas Voss says, Avi, why did Andrew Tate block you on Twitter? I can't remember why. But I can tell you this, Andrew Tate is pretty... Like, when you argue with him, because I think I may have had, like, one argument with him on Twitter, he just blocks you.
He's a bit
when you
soft.
start... When you start, like, getting more... Like, if you ratio him or you're getting too close... You know, he has a massive... Or back when he blocked me. I think now he's a lot less, like, you're seeing him suck up to... people.
Well,
like
there's people
Fuentes
more there's people crazier than him now in terms of what they say.
Yeah, so he's so there are people that get a lot more likes a lot quicker. So he's very sensitive on Twitter. Yeah. Dean Adams says had elections, as in I think you're talking about Ukraine. They had elections. Look. The argument that people say that they had elections, they don't have elections during wartime, it's pretty standard. I don't even think that that's like such a good argument. I think in wartime, show me somewhere where they do is there a place in Western democracy?
Well, there probably has been, but I think it's justifiable that a lot of these times during wartime, elections go out the window when a country is involved in fighting a war. But the argument doesn't stack up just because Russia's elections are pretty dodgy. So,
Russia's totally dodgy. Russia does not have, like, Putin's been in there forever. What'd they do? They had that one, what was the other guy for a couple of years?
They poisoned him. I forgot his name. Well,
no. That was the opposition they poisoned. But the guy that took Putin, became president or whatever for him.
Yeah,
the shorts in there, like he's a number 2 now. He's number 1, number 2. It's like Russia does not have a democracy at all. I agree with you. I think that as soon as the war ends, they need to. But during a war, it's impossible to actually do elections. It's very, very difficult. The war just needs to end, and then they have to have free and fair elections. The fact is, like, the way Zelensky got in was like free and fair. He was a freaking comedian. Hate him all you want. I don't think he's a particularly good dude. I think that his thing is corrupt. But anyways, Doza says sunglasses perpetually fall onto video game controller. Proud controllers.
That is the sticker.
Oh,
I wish this showed us the stickers, but
yeah, okay, gotcha.
Thank you.
Like, what do you say? Thank you for the super chat. Eric says, "Good stream, boys. It is sad that things that would be bar jokes a decade ago have become reality, but it is good to have reporting. Hope you guys get some rest you deserve after your trip." Thank you, Eric.
Thanks, mate.
You're
Thank you.
You're super
It's true.
kind. And on that note, I reckon good to go. I'll just check if there's any other later updates, but otherwise, watch the space. Guys, thanks for tuning in tonight. Appreciate. We're back in on it. Tuesday's October 7, I think. I'll be doing a stream during the day at some. I think there's some protest. I'll be live streaming that. I think there's some. There's a stream that's going. That's they're doing. Pat. Let me find the details.
Mercedes.
Pat Mercedes got a live stream happening on Tuesday night. You can check my socials. I'll have them up there. But so I don't know if Tuesday night we'll be doing it, but maybe we can do a Wednesday instead. Just says, great stream, guys. Thoughts on JD Vance on making fun of Zelensky for not wearing a suit at the White House? What, listen, I'm up for banter, making fun of anyone and whatever, and I'm not gonna I don't really care. I don't care about.
I think they got a little bit precious about it, the Americans, but I think it's a valid point as well. Like, there is a certain. I get he's in these war fatigues or whatever, like he's wearing his little uniform, but you can show respect to the place you come to and change outfits just for that time. Like no one will say anything about it.
It became his like.
It's like a performative thing. It's like the flotilla. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
It's like performative. It doesn't change anything. He could have put on a suit. And JD Vance, I guess, he did make a point. But the Americans sometimes do get pressures about certain things, like. But if Trump had been wearing the same suit all the time, people would defend him, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll, if not, just smash a like before you go, share the stream, and subscribe and hit the notification bell, because it might not be Tuesday night. It might be a different night. Otherwise, Thursday. God bless.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night. Shalom.